Shoot, I bet you field theorists would be able to comment on that real well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
All right. We're live with another Pangburn Hangout. Today we're going to be talking about futurism. It's Dal Day. Dal, what should I search for this? Like just Fermi Lab?
Yeah, Fermilab news would probably get you to what we need the fastest. I know it had something to do with the magnetic moment of muons.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Finds hint of new particles. Plural, by the way. I'm going to share this article. This is from quantummagazine.org. I'm sure they'll summarize things, and then we can find the actual paper or data. I will drop this in, why not physics? Drop it in the physics text channel. All right, I'll just do a quick reading of this. Let me do a quick call out to everyone to jump in if they want to get their brains dirty. The chat on Futurism starts now. All right. Let me just make sure I'm live.
Okay.
Share your screen. There we go. All right, let's go through this. Okay, that's all the stuff. 20 years after, first of all, this is a piece by Natalie Wolchover on April 7th, 2021. That is today. And the title of this article on particle physics is Last Hope, in quotes, experiment finds evidence for unknown particles. Today's long anticipated announcement of Fermilab's muon G-2 team appears to solidify a tantalizing conflict between nature and theory. But a separate calculation published at the same time has clouded the picture. All right, 20 years after an apparent anomaly in the behavior of elementary particles raise hopes of a major physics breakthrough. A new measurement has solidified them. Physicists at Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory near Chicago announced today that muons, elementary particles similar to electrons, wobbled more than expected while whipping around a magnetized ring. Wobbled more than expected. Interesting. The widely anticipated new measurement confirms the decades-old result, which made headlines around the world. Both measurements of the muon's wobbliness or magnetic moment significantly overshoot the theoretical predictions. As calculated last year by an international consortium of 132 theoretical physicists, the Fermilab researchers estimate that the difference has grown to a level qualified as 4.2 sigma, well on the way to the stringent 5 sigma level that physicists need to claim a discovery. Taken at face value, the discrepancy strongly suggests that unknown particles of nature are giving muons an extra push. Such a discovery would at long last herald the breakthrough of the 50-year-old standard model of particle physics. The set of equations describing the known elementary particles and interactions. Here's a quote. Today is an extraordinary day, long awaited not only by us, but by the whole international physics community. Graziano Venanzoni, one of the leaders of the Fermilab muon G2 experiment and a physicist at the Italian National Institute for Nuclear Physics, told the press. However, even as many particle physicists are likely to be celebrating and racing to propose new ideas that could explain the discrepancy, a paper published today, and here's a link. Very good. At nature.com. I'm going to post this down in physics as well. Here's the paper. Wish I had a hotkey. There we go. A paper published today in the journal Nature casts the new muon measurement in a dramatically duller light. The paper, which appeared just as the Fermilab team unveiled its new measurement, suggests that the muon's measured wobbliness is exactly what the standard model predicts. Okay, so there's more to look at here. Like this stuff right out of the gate, we already seem to have an exterminator, but we'll see. I want to pull up this Nature article. But initial thoughts, what do you guys think?
Well, from what I understand, it's like if there's something wrong with if it's not physics changing, the experiment is off at some level. But I am also seeing these articles that are saying that it's possible that they measured it correctly and what they got was predicted by the standard model. But for some reason, like, the physicists I followed aren't saying that. They're saying that it's either new physics or they messed up the experiment.
Right. So here we have a who published this? Oh, this is published by quite a few. Anyways, I'm going to read this citation. Leading hadronic contribution to the muon magnetic moment from Lattice QCD. The standard model of particle physics describes the vast majority of experiments and observations involving elementary particles. Any deviation from its predictions would be a sign of new fundamental physics. One long-standing discrepancy concerns the anomalous magnetic moment of a muon, a measure of the magnetic field surrounding that particle. Standard model predictions exhibit disagreement with measurements that is tightly scattered around 3.7 standard deviations. Today, theoretical and measurement errors are comparable. However, ongoing and planned experiments aim to reduce the measurement error by a factor of 4. Theoretically, the dominant source of error is the leading order hadronic vacuum polarization, LO-HVP contribution. For the upcoming measurements, it is essential to evaluate the prediction for the contribution with independent methods and to reduce its uncertainties. The most precise model-independent determinations so far rely on dispersive techniques combined with measurements of the cross-section of electron-positron annihilation into hadrons. To eliminate our reliance on these experiments, here we use ab initio quantum chromodynamics, QCD, and quantum electrodynamics simulations to compute the LOHVP contribution. We reach sufficient precision to discriminate between the measurement of the anomalous magnetic moment of the muon and the predictions of dispersive methods. Yeah, I'm going to read that again. We reach sufficient precision to discriminate between the measurement of the anomalous magnetic moment of the muon and the predictions of dispersive methods. Our result favors the experimentally measured value over those obtained using the dispersion relation. Moreover, the methods used and developed in this work will enable further increased precision as more powerful computers become available. So that's the abstract.
The Fifth Element. Well, in that movie has way more relevance.
What's that? Say that again.
Are you talking about the Fifth Force?
No, this is
referred to it as the Fifth Element. Looks at muon. That's what they're talking about. Is they think they found something that is a fifth force based on their.
Yeah, well, the muon is a known lepton.
Yeah,
but the
the rate it's like
there's some kind of anomaly, which I don't know. Dal, are you hearing a lot of people saying that it's human error or quantum mechanics? This fits well within the predictions of activity.
So I've seen most of the physicists, like on Twitter and stuff, that I'm seeing tweeting about it. They're saying that it's probably a mistake in their calculation somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see a few articles when I was searching around saying that they think that what they measured was predicted by the standard model, which is a little odd to hear because I'm not hearing that from most places.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of funny. Like we're reading stuff that was literally published earlier today, so we're kind of right in the. Not many people have had a chance yet.
Yeah, Fermilab just announced this today. This was announced this morning, I
Right.
believe.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've seen Kaku and people like him already talking about it. Maybe we have found the evidence of strings we've been anticipating.
Jeez.
But so what sort of goes to that thing, right? Like when Einstein first came up with the theory of relativity, everybody's like, "Oh, this is nonsense," and that's the exact response that scientists should have. Anything that comes out that seems like, "Oh, that's," that seems like a big thing. Everybody should be skeptical at first until there's enough evidence, and that's once there's evidence.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, like, as long as people aren't making positive claims one way or another, and this is why I just always care about the claims that people are willing to make about this stuff. And it's like on either side of that, you don't want to be cloaked in cynicism, and you also don't want to be the turd taking this information to create a new cult out of it.
What's probably interesting though is I bet like all the scientists that they talk to, like if you actually talk to that person, you'd be like, oh yeah, they get what's going on. But I think there's like a what is it, like telephone or whatever, like a miscommunication once it's written down into some sort of news article. Because all of a sudden it takes like a specific quote from this person that when the person's writing that article, they're like, oh, that quote sounds really cool. And does that give you complete context of everything that's going on?
I mean, there's not going to be a cult of the wobbly muon.
Oh, there probably
if there
will
isn't,
be.
then I'm pissed.
Dude, I mean,
I'll start
if we had the Heaven's Gate, we've got to have a wobbly muon.
Bear, what do you make of this so far, Bear?
I'm not qualified to speak on particle physics, but my layman's interpretation.
Yeah, and just by the way, Bear, I believe that you being someone that's interested in the topic is as qualified as anyone who's an expert. So I don't.
Oh, that's a very bad sign that the experts are that unqualified.
No,
all right.
I'm just saying you are qualified to think about this, talk about it, and come up with the right answer just as much as anyone is, in my opinion. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. It might not be as probable that you will without the experience, but but that's not the point being made, I don't think.
So it's probably just a measurement error. Like the standard model is, I believe, one of the best theories in history in terms of predicting things. It's very thorough, and it looks like there's already evidence showing that this is consistent with the standard model. So my bet is on the standard model remaining consistent and true. That's my bet.
That's a good bet.
Yeah, I would. If I had to put money down on it right now, I'd do the same thing.
So the muon is quite massive for particles, and let me just look up muon characteristics. It's got 1 pi
smiley face from what I see here.
Characteristics. And just as a really basic rundown, The muon is one of nature's fundamental particles. Its discovery in 1937 by Carl Anderson marked a radical departure in physics understanding of the building blocks of matter. And of course it has an anti-muon on the other side. Although it was first assigned a place in theory of nuclear forces, which was incorrect, it is now understood to be an important member of the lepton family of particles, which is a matter particle, a fermion. Teach Spin, in collaboration with Thomas Kohn and Jingbo Yi of Southern Methodist University, has made the first commercial teaching instrument for students to determine some of its particle characteristics. The muon is produced copiously in Earth's atmosphere by interactions between cosmic rays and atmospheric air molecules, and its flux at sea level is sufficient for student investigation. The muon's lifetime can be measured with our apparatus using experimental techniques common to nuclear and particle physics. The stopping rate of muons as a function of depth in the atmosphere can be used as a demonstration of the time dilation effect of special relativity. Since the decay times of individual radioactive particles are randomly distributed, they are a convenient source of genuinely random numbers. These can be used to demonstrate common probability distributions. I'll drop this as well. This is pretty good. And they, of course, have a -1 charge.
You guys ever heard the story of Max Planck and how his teacher, he had a college professor who's like, I don't know why you're going to study physics. We've already learned everything that we need to know. We've already learned everything that we can know from it.
I believe that was on Reddit, right? And Planck's reply was, I just want to know the fundamentals. And then he ended up,
That's funny.
That's just an exercise of Murphy's Law. Like the one guy who isn't a crank. It's like, actually.
Well, I mean, sometimes you need people like Elon who's like, why not? Let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Elon is not a scientist. He's a businessman.
Oh, I know. But he's like I just mean more in the general attitude of just being like, fuck it. Why not? Let's try it.
So
we need them all.
They're scientists to do the things.
So as far as I'm concerned, we are all scientists, artists, and philosophers, except, some people do this as a profession. And some people do it at the level of, going out and seeing what's under a rock. But one thing we are united under is that everyone who does any level of this does it for the pleasure of doing so. So, Bear, when you say he's not a scientist, I think you're just factually incorrect. I think what you mean to say is that he's not. That's not his profession.
Yeah, you have a very poetic way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think when you say that, Bear, I think that is the language of cynicism, and that's where I would just suggest that there could be an upgrade. But
I would look. Neither is right nor wrong. Taking from a page of the non-cynic there. But what I mean by that is exactly like you mean, people who are not professionals, right? We're all weightlifters because we all do lift weights, but there are professional people who spend their entire lives doing that. So I'm not going to be able to lift the weights that like a Bill Kazmaier could have.
Sure.
Similarly, I'm not going to have technical understandings about the finer details of physics or any particular field compared to people that spend tens of thousands of hours dedicated to that pursuit. Right. So I agree with you that everybody is a natural-born scientist to some capacity, but we do have to defer to experts to a large capacity as well. We can disagree, and sometimes lay people can be right, and experts can be wrong, but those are few and far between and becoming ever increasingly more rare as progress goes on.
Yeah, I think the one thing about your analogy that I would like to address is not everyone's going to experience weight lifting in their life necessarily, but I think experiencing and playing in the realm of art, science, and philosophy, I think to attempt to avoid that would be near impossibility.
I mean, we're weightlifters in the sense that we interact with the physical world.
I agree with that, definitely.
We do have to
If
lift
that's
our
what
own
you
bodies,
mean.
right?
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
If that's what you mean. Yeah, totally on board with that. What up, Doolittle? J Square, Metal. What the fuck, man? Where the fuck you been?
Dude, it's been forever, Metal.
Jesus, we're fucking having a metal
Sometimes
around here.
I just disappear.
Dude, Metal, do you know who Fed Smoker is?
No.
There.
Well, who's that?
Do you know who Tom Segura is, the comedian? He has a podcast, and he's like, they always like pull up these videos,
Name
but like
sounds
sometimes
familiar.
you sound just like Fed Smoker, and it's just this like crazy guy who's like, he gets on there and he's like, oh man, you guys are all pedophiles, and like he just starts.
So it's Alec Jones's cousin.
Exactly.
Basically, it's fucking hilarious.
Let's see if Doolittle the engineer, doctor, what do you think of this? What's going on with? I don't know if you've been following this, but what's been going at Fermi Lab with this, some detection of muons being strange.
Participating into like invisibility fascination or something like that.
So
I posted the articles in physics if you want to take a look at them first.
that's one of those things where the vocabulary is something that I haven't practiced in so long that it's just reading gibberish to me.
Yeah, and we don't have to stay too long on this because this is quite it is quite technical, and I mean, we can, if anyone has guesses as we're moving through this, but this is anyways Dal's chat on futurism, so I'm going to hand it over to Dal.
Yo. So yeah, I really wanted to start on the muon thing. I guess because last time we talked a little bit about futurism, we went really deep, really fast. Like we went straight to escaping the heat death of the universe and entering into the whatever's after that. So with this discovery that could, probably not, but could be new physics, I wanted to at least discuss it while staying a little closer to home, or maybe try to anticipate where we might think physics will break, like with dark matter and dark energy, for instance.
Well, what benefits do we get from these nuons? How can that benefit technology now? If we understand,
we don't know. The muons are wobbly, bro.
Yeah,
they wobble.
Let's start a cult.
I remember hearing that. Oh, don't worry. Someone will. They'll start a cult, but they won't say they are a cult. No, it's a science. No, it's not another example of scientism. Like, stop.
Waiting for Jordan Peterson to come out with 10 rules for physics.
Well, sort of the thing with theoretical physics, though, is like you'll come across something that you make a discovery, and it might not be useful for 50 years. You know, like magnetism and stuff. Like we discovered that like the late 1700s, just by a guy like running electricity through copper wires that were round and that were in a cylinder. And then he had metal shavings on the table, and he realized, oh, something's going on. There's some fundamental force here that's affecting these copper wires. So we learn about magnetism, and now if you have like a home security system that's all based on magnetism, like if the alarm goes off once these two magnets are no longer holding a current anymore, and then triggers the alarm.
You are currently
there's just like a ton of these things that like we don't know where it's going to lead, but it's important for us to know.
Yeah,
you're currently thinking our thoughts due to electromagnetism storing this information in binary electron hole pairs in silicon.
Oh,
yeah.
So I am the magnet.
Well, not really.
Chick magnet.
It's kind of weird, right? Like, so my profession is I'm a freelance writer, and I think sometimes about like the actual like physical process of this. Like I use my little like meat appendages to mash these buttons, which arrange blinky light patterns on this one glowing rectangle, and that gets fired down a series of tubes to someone else's glowing rectangle, and they see the shapes, and then they start thinking my thoughts.
Yeah.
And this is how I get money and pay for beans and rice.
Yep.
Physics is amazing. It takes the bullcrap away from our life and makes it more.
And that's like, to me, that's what I find exciting about like when new things like this come out, because I don't think even in my lifetime it's going to have, we're not going to have the industrial side or the like the engineering side of it to make these things be products that are benefiting us. But down the line they will, and I think down the line they're going to be of extraordinary benefit, just like everything else we've learned.
But the wobbly muons?
Yeah, I mean, if it turns out to be a real thing, yeah, we don't know what it is right now, but it could, in 100 years, like it could like lead to an entire different understanding of the way things work. And
I mean, probably physics is the area of science that's been the most fruitful, right? So every singular engineering feat has its roots in physics.
Sure.
Mathematics too. I think math is a huge part.
Is physics a very hard science? Is it very?
Oh yeah.
Very hard to disprove stuff. I mean, is it hard to misinterpret things? It's very hard because sometimes when you get to sciences like psychology, that one gets.
I don't know about that, but it is very hard to argue with.
Fuzzy, you're referring to like fuzzy science versus hard science. Like math, physics, biology. All these things are hard sciences, whereas what is what is.
Like we know the atomic mass of elements.
Exactly.
It's like those are
when
just facts that we've discovered.
This is when you start throwing quantum mechanics in, that makes things a little.
But quantum but quantum mechanics is a very, very complete, useful model. It is missing. It of course is missing. The inclusion of the hypothetical graviton.
Well, do you guys have a touch screen?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you guys have a touch screen phone?
Yeah.
That works through quantum mechanics.
Right.
The very reason that touch screen phones work is because quantum mechanics works and it's real. You have to look at it. So basically what it does is like you're taking like two membranes, and when you subtract enough space between them, like it makes a connection.
And
that's how your phone, but basically something along those lines. But if you look it up, like touchscreen phones, touchscreen anything works based off of quantum mechanics.
Well, I also heard the problem.
We know it works.
The problem with technology right now is we can't get. It's harder to get any smaller because it's harder to. I think build them. They're getting too small. And then you experience brownouts and stuff, and
just so you guys know,
don't operate properly.
The standard model of elementary particles has an explanation for everything. It just hasn't been able to unify. General relativity. So if we could find gravity to be particulate, we could put it in the standard model and it would be beautiful. And that doesn't mean we won't find other particles or even other forces that don't fit at some point. But out of what is known right now, it's just since we have Kaku coming up on Friday, that's the that's the quest for these people who are trying to find a grand unifying theory to unify these two fields.
Just for clarity, what exactly makes up the standard model? Like, is that mechanics and some general relativity mixed together? Or
I can take you guys through the standard model right now. So we have the fermion representations, which are the matter particles, and those break into two groups, into quarks and leptons. You guys have likely heard. You guys are familiar with quarks. So with quarks, you have up quark, down quark, charm, strange, top, bottom, And then you have the antimatter representations of all of those. So anti-up, anti-down on the other side. And then you jump down to leptons, and you have, that's where the electron lives. So you have the electron, the muon that we were just talking about, tau neutrino, muon neutrino, and electron neutrino, and all of those have their anti-pulverizers on the other side. So that's the standard model of and by the way, so that's the standard model of matter particles. Then we get over to the gauge bosons, and the gauge bosons represent the particles that carry the forces, that are responsible for the forces. So you have the gluons that is the particle that holds together, that's responsible for the strong force. It's the strongest of all forces. And then you have the ZWs that is in charge of the weak force. And if you want to see what that looks like, I have models that I've posted, just little, like, or you can Google it right now, but it'll show you how those forces break down. So you're going to go strong from strongest to weakest. You're going to go strong. You're going to weak with the ZW. You're going to go electromagnetism is the next one, which is carried by the photon. So that the photon is what's responsible for carrying
light and stuff.
Right. That's the gauge boson for that, and that's represented by Y on the elementary boson scale. And then you would expect, what about the weakest of all forces, gravity? Where is it? Well, with the hypothetical graviton has been anticipated, but the problem is, it may be the case that the force of gravity is just so fucking weak that we don't have the instruments to be able to detect the graviton yet. No. But a lot of most physicists I talk to think that the graviton is an inevitability and it's going to fit. But people who work on string theory have different ideas and answers for that.
Well, is it possible that gravity could just be coming from all the different particles? They just becoming.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what the graviton would represent. So if you can find a particulate representation in the boson field for gravity, that is the force of gravity in particle form, then you can complete that standard model. But it's a pisser right now. It's not complete if you can't do that. So Einsteinian general relativity is still on the other side, and we've been able to not make it work with the standard model. And then of course there's one super interesting that has a zero spin, which is cool, is the new Higgs boson, the Higgs particle, which is a force,
it's static,
which is a newly inserted confirmed boson, which is
when
cool.
You say it doesn't spin, does it just not move at all? It's just static.
It has
no spin value.
Yeah, it has no spin. So I'll take you through spin quickly. The total angular momentum of a particle is the total availability of that of the angles that can be used in momentum for that particle is what the spin is. And this will determine their alignment in the magnetic field. And of course, that's going to make a huge difference how they're able to interact with other things in the magnetic field. So that's what spin is.
I'm not going to remember any of this.
No, that's fine.
I'm so sorry.
But this might sound like it's a lot of information, but there's a lot more to learn, because this is all just the pieces of the puzzle, that the tested and confirmed pieces. But then you got to start looking at the mathematics, like the Dirac equation that shows you the electron. You got to look at forms of energy. You got to look at wave particle duality. You got to look at like all of these things, and you got to understand the nomenclature in order to be able to read the equations. You got to understand wave functions, understand the common usages of and where these really fit in, and then you have to understand the scales in which we're talking about. So you can print out a logarithmic sorry, that word.
Yeah.
Logarithmic scale to show you just the where all of this stuff is scaling up that we're talking about. And then you'll start realizing that this whole everything is accounted for. Like when we look, everything in the periodic table is accounted for in the standard model.
Yeah.
It's like when people say there's so much left to discover, it's a fun poetic thing to say, but
gravity could be anywhere.
Right. And look, and here's the things that really get me going. The things that excite me is dark energy and dark matter. Because dark matter is fucking everywhere. And most of our observable universe in our closed system is dark energy. And we are expanding into what's been theorized, and some people call it 11-dimensional hyperspace, but there's a few different names.
Wait.
So that's when you ask the question of then you have to start understanding dimensions of reality, the theorized dimensions of reality. And
don't we live in a third dimension? Or
yeah, you guys all know 3 dimensions, X, Y, Z. That's going to take care of the 3 dimensions. But then you have the dimension of time, which is what we think is the next dimension. But then you have you have all of that represented on just multiple scales after that. And then that just keeps increasing. And then that gets doubly increased. And then increased after that as you start crawling up these dimensions. And then some of these theories, like string theory, they only work in certain dimensional representations. So you have to find out. You're trying to calibrate a model, a theory of everything, to everything in a way that it works with the theorized dimensions as well, because you have to be able to theorize this stuff in a dimension of something. So there is a lot. It's a lot of material, but one thing I just want to say is, like, anything you can point to or imagine, we essentially know what it is.
That's good to know. I remember getting an argument with a friend though about something. It was about a supernatural subject, and he kept making the argument like, as far as we know now. I kept saying, yeah, but the claim you're making is kind of outrageous, and as far as we know, not real.
What claim?
Says, the claim would be the claim was about the supernatural, about ghosts. Like, he thinks we don't have the instruments to completely prove they're not real.
Yeah, but
like,
it's
I'm
not.
Sure we do.
But Metal, that's why the burden of proof is just always sits on the claim maker, right?
But he says he's not making a claim. He says for all we know, we don't know what it is exactly until we get better instruments to figure out what it actually is. I'm like, okay.
Who said this, and what was it about specifically?
I was about me. Just basically, I mentioned that, like, I mean, if you really look at it skeptically, I mean, there's no evidence for ghosts. And he says, like, well, we don't know exactly what that is. We don't like, whenever someone experiences something supernatural. I've had friends that experience weird stuff, and you can make the argument that it's all in their head, but until we can actually figure out what it actually is, we really don't know what they experience. You know what I mean? And he's trying to make the argument that we might learn later on that actually might be a real phenomenon. It might not exactly be ghosts, but it might be something. I'm saying, well, until then, it's probably not ghosts.
So Metalworks, human beings like to surf on the waves of possibility and engage in artistic thinking, and it makes them feel good. And we see religions and gods and all kinds of things born out.
Well,
he kept pointing
how we used to think the Earth was flat, and I'm like, yeah, you're correct. We used to think the Earth was flat. Now we don't. But that phenomenon, it just might be all in your head. I kept trying to tell him, like, what we know now.
Specifically about ghosts is compelling, though.
Well, what exactly are all of these people who have like these first encounters? What exactly are they experiencing? Is it really just all in their head?
Yeah, we have pretty good reason to believe that there's about as many of these occurrences as we would expect for people having, blips in their in their ability to actually record properly what did in fact happen around them. Like,
or just be wrong.
Yeah, like wrong about what they're seeing, or actually seeing things that didn't happen and dreaming things. Sometimes people hold grudges against people for things that they did to them, and they find out years later that never actually happened, and that happened within the context of their dream. So it's like I kept trying to tell him, like, the mind is really good at making you think things that aren't there are there. Yeah, but this is why I really strongly, when it comes to what is going on in reality, people ought to look to the scientific method and the scientific consensus. That's the mechanism we use to determine what's going on in reality. And then the other side is the odd side.
And the point he kept making was, well, so far we don't know what that is. So until science can prove what that is, and I'm like, but I'm pretty sure
you can't prove.
I didn't know. I don't know. I didn't know that
science isn't in the game of proving negatives, right? Or else we would be chasing our tails all fucking day. Because just I can tell those same people that I have invisible fairies flying around my head that only I can see. You can't prove they're not.
Well, I just kept telling them, like, so far it's best to assume, well, here's the thing, stuff in their head, because until then. I mean,
here's the thing. Let's steelman this a little bit. Okay. So let's say that for example, the story about the guy who discovered antiseptics. All right. That guy died in the insane asylum because people didn't adopt antiseptics during his lifetime. He was right on about a phenomena that had a decent and valid approach. It's just the theory that he used to explain it at his time did not fit. Germ theory wasn't around when he was practicing antiseptics, so he used some kind of theory like balance of the humors or whatever, and it could never explain what he always saw. But nevertheless, he was still dealing with a very real phenomenon. Believe it or not, washing your hands before surgery generally makes the odds of the surgery not causing an infection makes that go down. But it's not balance of the humors. So
and this was the problem I was having trying to beat this argument. That it was kind of what he was saying.
Right. So it
could be something there, we just don't know how to identify it yet.
If your theory is magic fairies, right, or something crazy like that, but it does actually explain something that has some results and consistent results, even if your theory, your framework for explaining that needs work, it doesn't mean you don't have a real phenomena that you're dealing with, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And we see this all the time in science where, well, not all the time, actually, since quantum physics, theory has preceded practice. But before then, we would just play with some phenomena that we know is consistent and then try to make theories that explain that.
Yeah.
So pretty much for all that. So yeah, if you come up with like magic fairies that are doing something, but you can explain something that physics can't with magic fairies or whatever, talk to me about it. I'll listen.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Dal, sorry, I just wanted to. Go ahead. I kind of just wanted to run through quickly through quantum mechanics.
Yeah, that's not the easiest thing to do. Crap, I forgot what I was going to say. Well, to try to steer us around towards futurism, what do you guys think the fuel source we will use to colonize another planet will be?
I don't think we're going to colonize another planet. I think we're probably going to be, our future fuel source is going to be the fat calorie.
You think we're going to go back to the Stone Ages and start hunting again?
If geopolitics is any kind of indication, yeah, I think that's probably likely.
Oh God, I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I when I think about the future, I think it's inevitable that just because of our the pleasure we get out of doing things that seem impossible. We are going to have buildings, radio stations, coming to you live from the moon, coming to you live from Mars, coming to you live from Europa. This is 1,007,617 FM. And as far as a fuel source, I think once we figure out how to swim some way through dark energy, maybe something like that, where there's such an abundance.
It might not even be a fuel source. We might even figure out a way to make ourselves live longer.
Well, just so hang on. I'm just throwing some ideas out there. Then, but yeah, or I like this idea of catching photons in a balloon-like apparatus where it blows up, and that ends up propelling us forward. Something like that, where we're just kind of hitching a ride on these gauge bosons, essentially. And perhaps we will have a dark energy representative in the standard model for the dark energy boson.
I just want 1 million hertz radio, like you said, because that's going to be the broadcast you will listen to that broadcast for the rest of your life, my friend. Which is roughly 3 minutes and 4 seconds, because that's ultra deep gamma.
See, you're gonna need special listening devices for that.
Well,
yeah, you're gonna need to be shielded against radiation.
I actually heard people argue that even if we did figure out space exploration, communication might be very difficult because, it takes so long for stuff to travel in space through light. Light takes so long to travel through space. God only knows how long communication is going to be. It's going to be like the new snail mail. It's going to be like you send a message out and it will take 3 or 4 days to go through.
Yeah, what if we discover the entanglement internet? Can communicate faster than the speed of light with anyone else who has...
You're never going to outrun causality. You cannot transfer information faster than the speed of light.
Well, there might be. There's a few papers I've seen that go into how you might be able to slip little bits of information through.
Were those papers from the future?
Well, they were in the same way Alcubierre warp drive has a paper.
Right.
Okay, so a little bit about that. Okay, right. We build apparatus to hold rockets down to test, thrust. And Alcubierre warp drive is the most delicate stuff to try to find. Just the little tiniest eek.
Sure,
but it's just.
But you might be able to. The point is that if something is possible, it's fine within the context of a futuristic conversation to explore it. I think, and I think when. All of a sudden, if we look at human history and how we've interpreted physics, it seems like our artistic imagination tends to become reality. So if we want to imagine it, if we imagine it, we can do it. And Kaku's not the only one that says this, but there's a lot of physicists who know physics very well, like Lawrence Krauss, Kaku, these popularizers, that every time someone says that X is impossible, you won't hear these guys say that. What you'll say is that it's not difficult. Plausible, or it's improbable. Or improbable or not plausible. But I think as soon as we say, if we can imagine an engineering some kind of structure or machine or whatever that can take care of X problem we see that pops up through the standard model, I think humanity has overcome that. And I think intelligent creatures, if they have enough time, they can.
Yeah, and to kind of argue for the Alcubierre warp drive a little bit, like there's one.
Maybe explain what it is first.
Okay, yeah. Basically, it's the idea that we can utilize vast amounts of energy to warp the curvature of space and time around a spaceship, so we could create like a stable space inside of a warp bubble that then we could go faster than the speed of light because the ship itself is just sitting in a stationary space.
Right. So Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek, but without subspace,
Okay.
whatever the hell that is, because I hear them.
That almost reminds me of the ship in Futurama. That's how the ship in Futurama moved. It moves space around it. The ship doesn't move; it stays still. Its dark matter reactor uses its thrusters to move space around it. So that's how it goes around.
How fucking lazy.
So silly.
That's the laziest ship ever.
It is, but it's so fun.
So how about this? How about my theory is that if you want to go somewhere faster, it's probably better to move in a different dimension, right? We're really only seeing 3 dimensions, and
Take a shortcut.
take a shortcut
It's
in
even
another
lazier.
dimension. Take a shortcut in another dimension, so you don't actually have to go through all the space in between.
Maybe one day we'll be like, back in my day, we had to obey general relativity.
But we have to,
exactly.
discover the particle that we can push against to move in that other dimension. So those particles are not yet. Maybe they're discovered, but we haven't discovered how to interact with them in a way that actually gives us propulsion.
Oh no, I think we might discover a longevity before we discover a way to move through, space and stuff like that.
I don't know if there's 11 dimensions and we're only really trying to go in 3. I think there's a lot of room for improvement there.
And I'm just saying, if we can live longer, it'll be easier for us to discover how to move through space faster. Because we'll live longer.
That doesn't make sense.
That
doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, if smart people live longer, then they can do more research longer.
Also, like, if you live longer, you don't have to worry as much about getting there really fast and slowing down really fast.
Exactly.
I thought the time constraint isn't one individual's lifespan, but it's the lifespan of the solar system. Really, we have to solve this before the sun blows up.
Yeah, that's also very important to figure out. So that goes.
I don't know. A lot of people have nukes. We might want to solve it.
Yeah, and having a shorter lifespan might actually solve the problem faster.
I guess urgency.
Well, new people have new ideas, and if the same thinker is alive for 170 million years, he's not going to necessarily solve the problem on his 170 millionth year.
We also don't know what the long-term effects of being alive longer would be.
We could do term limits, like
physicist term limits.
Yeah, so you get 100 years as a physicist, and then you have to go up and be a crazy wizard in town or someone.
Someone tell Lawrence Krauss that he's not allowed to do physics anymore. His term limits are up.
Oh, he would be thrilled. He could just go to Mexico and chill.
But I actually do worry about, like, if we ever do discover longevity, like, what are going to be the new mental disorders that pop out from that? That'll be a whole fun other tier of bullshit to deal with.
Super
Space Republicans.
Space.
It helps a lot, guys, if you have the YouTube stream open. I'm just going to post it on live Pangburn Philosopher tab. And it's fun to engage in the chat there. It really helps promote the new channel on YouTube. So we can text chat while we're voice chatting if you guys have the ability to.
Yeah.
I don't have the tech. I'm a primitive monkey.
Oh man, I can tell by that hair.
Also, how would being able to travel through space faster, how would that affect us also?
Oh man.
Theoretically, it shouldn't. I don't think. At least as long as we don't hit the speed of light and turn into whatever or explode.
Or disintegrate.
Because I don't think anything with mass can actually hit the speed of light. It would require infinite energy. So as long as we didn't, go about generating infinite energy.
It's a pretty tall order.
Yeah, but there's vacuum energy.
Still not infinite. It's actually infinitely far away from being infinite.
Fair enough. I don't know. I don't know what could pop up in the future.
Probably not infinity.
Well, ideas like state decay, that might cause something crazy on the other side.
I was reading about that.
What's that?
I'm just pulling up a paper here.
It's basically the idea that the space and time could be at an energy level that's not its most stable, and something or it by itself could make it decay down to its lowest energy level. And so you would end up with this essentially bubble of new universe that would pop up and erase everything. And
oh boy.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah,
but would it only decay at the speed of light, so we'd pretty much be safe as long as we're far enough away from the center?
That's a vacuum decay, but it's a Boltzmann event. It's so ridiculously unlikely that dark energy will probably save you from it.
Yeah, true, because the speed of space's expansion is accelerating. So
yeah, it'll save you from evidence from vacuum decay statistically.
And, is
right.
space still expanding? Is it still going out?
Maybe. Seems like it. But it's kind of hard to say because all we really see is the observable universe. Like if we were to go to the edge of our observable universe, would it look like it does here?
So here's a question I have for Dr. Kaku. This actually led right into that. Let me pull up my notes. This is exactly how I'm going to ask it. Dr. Kaku, let's imagine we find ourselves in 11-dimensional hyperspace, meaning the theorized space that our universe is expanding into. We are sitting in a spacecraft that allows us to survive and sit in observation of all 11 dimensions. What do we see? What do you think we see when we escape our event horizon and we're sitting in the mix of what we're expanding into?
We see the Lie group, eighth Lie group.
E8.
Yep.
We see the studio audience.
Can you imagine? A galactic studio audience. Yay, you won the game. Okay, now we'll start over.
Oh,
you find so many lost golf balls.
Oh, fucking every lost golf ball, every lost expensive Nike
Guitar
ball
picks.
that you've ever blasted out of bounds is going to be sitting right there.
Titleists.
all the lost keys.
It's all the guitar picks.
You did it,
That's
children.
where they're going.
You finally found me.
You did it.
Morgan Freeman.
You've finally finished your journey to the outside of the cosmos. I am
Just a
Morgan
lie.
Freeman.
Oh god!
Or maybe you find Christopher Walken. No, you're going about it all wrong.
No, what you see, what you're supposed to do.
Welcome to the end of the time. I'll be your host.
You're on the wrong side. This is for Mackie. I know how he talks. I just don't know any movies he's from.
What about you, Dal? What do you think about the fuel thing, Dal? And Doolittle, let's get everyone's take on that.
Well, my first question was really about what would initially get us to another planet. So if I had to guess, I would say probably rocket fuel. At least by the looks of it, but you never know. We might get smart and use our nukes to get there a lot faster.
Yeah,
To get to another planet?
Orion project.
Or are we talking about a different, like a different planet in a different solar system?
I was gonna do.
Let's say
Like
Europa.
if we're just gonna do Mars, I'd say most of the energy to get us there is actually provided by, the momentum of our orbits, right?
Yep, that is true.
Is there much water on
Yeah,
we need the thrust to.
the thrust is just a tiny bit that gets you from one orbit to the next one, and we're just kind of picking the lowest energy place to jump across.
See, this is why I want to.
Which only comes up once in a while.
I want a photon collect. I want a thing that's gonna collect photons like it's blowing up a balloon, and that balloon is gonna propel us. But you have to make sure you get the right photons with the correct trajectory, or else you're fucked.
Correct name brand photons.
Exactly. Oh, we don't want those racist ones.
No,
High photon.
You don't want the Samsung.
Just you wait until Apple makes like a proprietary spacecraft dongle.
Yes.
Best value.
Doolittle, we got to go to the engineer on this. What is the fuel source of the future? And we're talking beyond. Let's go beyond rocket fuel. Let's go beyond burning oil.
Huh. Beyond rocket fuel.
More oil.
So, rocket fuel is really just anything that we're spewing out of the back of us to push against ourselves, right?
Sure.
So that we can accelerate.
I think it's pretty much anything that fuels the rocket by definition. So.
Right, but I mean, in general, rocket propulsion is just is utilizing Newton's laws of motion to kind of give ourselves a thrust.
It's pretty primitive, actually.
Yeah,
we're gonna light a fire under our ass and shoot ourselves outside the atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, it's really you're ejecting particles in one direction so that you can move in a little bit in the other direction, right? So there's got to be something else to push against.
I reckon that enough explosions.
You might be able to push against the electromagnetic force, and I've seen some people that supposedly have made like ion drive kind of ion engines that push against the electromagnetic force instead of pushing against a solid object.
That's Newton's third law as well. They just ionize particles to go super fast between two plates.
Are they?
Yeah, we brought that last time too.
Mythbusters did that.
The cone looking one that was some Goddard
Alcubierre
center.
That's a whole different.
That's an imaginary thing that Gene Roddenberry dreamed up. But you come up with the physics behind it, and then I'll say maybe that's the thing.
The EM drive.
EM drive. I don't know.
I think gravity's like gravity is not even an option. It's just too fucking weak, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the EM. I think the EM drive is what I was talking about.
How do you think gravity feels about that?
How do you think gravity feels that the entire Earth's
it might not even exist
is too fucking weak to keep a mosquito down?
Jesus, man, where are your gains at gravity? What are you doing?
Oh, okay. Well, you hold together a fucking solar system and see how you feel.
It's a real force. I think it's like a centrifugal force. I think it's a false force.
What, gravity?
Yeah, it's not real. That's why you can't find the gravitons.
Well, yeah, this is a major debate in physics. What the fuck is going on with gravity? Like, obviously, relativity gives us demonstration and a great observational testable model. But what is it? Is the problem of what?
I don't think you need to say what's going on with gravity. I think you can just leave it like, what the fuck is going on?
What? No, but I think gravity is fucking weird, man. Like the idea, like and like I was saying, for it to be a force that fucking weak but still strong enough, to affect time. It's very strange.
Well,
Although, I remember seeing a tweet. This always pisses me off when people are like, as much as I like NASA and space and everything, shouldn't we focus on fixing Earth and stuff? And I'm like, bruh, do you know how much
You can do
technological
both at the same
advances
time.
come from space travel?
We got to get off this dirt ball.
Yeah, I hate this. Fucking pisses me off when people they can't imagine outside of doing two things at once. It's like, wow, you must be terrible at wiping your ass.
It's like how are you gonna get someone that wants to learn rockets? I'm like, I really want to learn rockets, but let me go respec my interest, and I'll just go learn biology or something. It's not how that works. You can't just respect your interest. You can't just take your points in rocket science and
what a crappy argument. Oh, just go solve every problem in the world first.
Yeah, right.
The two best things that advance society is the NASA and the military. Shockingly, the military is also.
Well, about porn.
No?
Porn advances technology like nothing else.
Yeah, that's another one.
Fuck
No, it doesn't, dude.
Travel,
I beg to differ.
Sex and violence.
We got stuck with VHS because of porn. Could have had Betamax.
It's still you're gonna have these kind of retarded cousins in between until you get to something good.
Oh, don't
that right there is why I hate porn, is because of VHS. 24 frames per second.
If
Good enough.
If Elon Musk gets his way, then they'll all be retarded cousins between him and the book, between the brain chip and the book.
Oh.
Yep.
He's gonna have so many babies. So many little musklets.
I still don't understand how that neural link
Dude, does he call his kids musketeers?
If he doesn't, I will.
Oh, musketeers.
Yeah, dude, they should.
He's gonna have to call his son that once. Oh,
I'm sure he already has.
Well, his son's still a baby, so I don't think he'll get the joke.
That guy?
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be real. That's probably a clone built in a lab somewhere. That's not a normal child. That thing is gonna grow up to be just gonna leave the planet. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Metal's just practicing his Jones routine.
he's gonna end up resenting his dad.
It's a proven fact. Elon Musk is going to run the lab.
Elon Musk's child
This is an undisputed fact right here, guys. We have it right here.
Well documented.
Involved metahuman, and he's just gonna go into space once he realizes.
And the one answer to all of this that I've come up with is Alpha Force.
Alpha Force.
Wait, what's that?
Doesn't he sell
proprietary
that supplement?
medicine?
Oh.
Yeah.
He sells all kinds of
supplement.
like Alpha something.
Alpha Brain was Rogan.
Oh, that's Rogan, but he's got a different one.
Take these pills and you'll look like me.
Yeah, I
Stay away
think
from those.
No!
terrible ad, Matt.
That's awful.
Take this and look like me and fucking think like me and run up there.
I don't want a dad bod, please. Or whatever the hell
Yeah.
that kind of bod Alex Jones has. There's muscle there, but it's also misshapen and deformed.
The problem with Jones is how frequently he's not wrong.
Yes, and how he looks like a crazy person all the time.
Spider goats, and it's like, yeah, well, actually, we have been synthesizing spider proteins in goat milk.
Yeah, he'll stumble on something, and it's kind of true, and then his mind will go.
He sensationalizes it, and then we always go oh no, Jones has to be wrong.
He'll make it look like it seemed like it's worse than it is.
Honestly, he has a better truth track record than CNN at this point.
It's really sad.
Which is not an endorsement of Jones at all.
Oh, he needs to stop overreacting to everything.
That's a shtick. If you
interdimensional demons and shit,
you wouldn't be able. You wouldn't be able to differentiate him between differentiate between him and scientific journals if he like slowed down his speech and wasn't a crazy bastard all the time.
Overreacting.
Yeah, if he just used multisyllabic language, like no one would bat an eye. Spider silk synthesized in goat's milk.
Mm. He was also right about Epstein too.
Yes, he was.
That was really fucking weird.
Yeah, well,
Dude,
so Alex Jones actually looks at real things and makes up crazy explanations for them.
Exactly.
Right? CNN is so bad because they intentionally make up false things.
Yeah, they make it look good. Make it look presentable.
So, you know.
All this.
And let me ask you guys, does Fox News do the same?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Way worse.
They all did.
They're way worse about it.
Hey, how's it going there, eh?
Yeah, how's it going, eh? Just sitting here drinking a 2 for you know.
Oh man, if I was there, I'd come and pop one with you, and then maybe a doob.
For 4 years.
Good night, eh?
For 4 years, we had to hear this crazy narrative. Like, we already live in a world where some of the most powerful people in the Northern Hemisphere all get together to wear robes and worship an owl in Northern California.
Yeah,
we already have that. There's already, like, pedophile islands. And then we get this freaking narrative pushed on us. Like, yes, actually, the current sitting commander-in-chief happens to be a secret Russian spy / former game show host. Like, we had 4 years of that. It's already crazy enough, CNN. Shut up.
I have to ask everyone in the room something. Does Bear sound like Eliyahu Bobby's brother?
Could be. They could be brothers.
Don't they sound the same? I don't know, Bear, if you've come across Eliyahu on here, but you guys sound very similar.
Bear, are you a Jew from New York? No?
Who told you about me?
See? You know it.
That's why he said.
No.
That's why he's got Bear Jew in his name.
I know
I'm
my
not
brethren.
a Jew. I'm not from New York. Though I do feel well. Anyway, I'm generally non-denominational, so that would count me as like
All right.
firmly in the Reformed category.
But you do feel kosher.
Just tell Bruce you're going to hell. That'll work for him.
What the hell?
Wait, are you a Christian believer or no?
I'm anything I feel like in the moment kind of guy.
Oh, all right.
Whatever gets him checks.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
works. That's utility. That has utility.
Unless it's like I just can't do the crystals thing when she's like, "Yeah, man, these crystals are gonna heal you." I can't. Sorry, there's no
that one for me. That one for me too. Like, there's no way I'm getting it up if a chick is talking about that.
I can.
There's
I'm
no
sorry.
fucking way.
There's just not enough. Well, you think with the wrong head too often.
There's not enough fucking Viagra in the world to make that happen.
Hey, you can.
You don't need Viagra.
Have you ever watched a Spirit Science before, Pang? You'd love that.
Send me a DM. I want to see it.
Oh, Spirit Science is amazing.
There's plenty of thought experiments that I like, and if we want to start entertaining unfalsifiable claims and like practice, delivering the most plausible, attractive sounding bullcrap narrative, like I'm down for that. Like there are irrational thought experiments that I love playing around with, of course. Like everyone here loves the friggin' simulation hypothesis. Holy crap. Like, is that not the most entertaining? That's an entertaining friggin' argument there that's entirely bullcrap and unfalsifiable and not usable.
Still possible.
Speak for yourself, man.
Yeah, speak for yourself, man. I'm unplugged, man.
There could be a teapot. There could be a teapot orbiting the sun. You wouldn't be able to falsify. We don't have the means to falsify.
There's actually, here's a funny thing about probability and quantum mechanics. There's actually a mathematical representation of the probability of you all of a sudden spontaneously arriving in the center of Saturn.
Yeah. Well, quantum tunneling, yeah, and there's. Actually, it gets even worse than that.
But the probability is like seriously 10 to the power of trillion. It's just ridiculous.
I've had worse odds.
Oh, and when you look at that video, look at the subscriber count there and just be amazed and depressed at the same time. Oh, God.
Post that in.
I'm never amazed or depressed at the depravity of man.
I am.
Metal. Post that in jokes as well in the text chat.
Oh, spirit science.
Oh my God, spirit science.
6,000 years ago, everyone existed on Atlantis, and then we were invaded by Martians, and they all bred. We're the interbred Martians and Atlanteans.
I need to start selling woo. I need to start taking like absolutely unfalsifiable crap and packaging it up into entertaining things and putting it on YouTube. Like, what am I doing with my life? I could be.
Dude's got 1 million subscribers.
He's got 1 million subscribers. That gives him roughly a 6-figure income. That's great. Okay.
Yeah. He like sells tarot cards and shit, and
oh my God,
he tries to find the science and spirituality. Oh. I mean, I've talked to Canadian politicians. It's great.
It's all about Thoth, man.
Yeah.
So wrote it all down on the jade tablets under the pyramids.
We're all male. We're a male species. We're supposed to be a female species, right? Or how does that work?
A lot of they steal from Eastern religion, and I have a big hard-on for Eastern religion, so it hurts me.
It does.
We've had humans for like what, 2 million years roughly, like depending on what you define as a human. Okay. And we've had spirituality and mysticism for roughly 2 million years, minus however long the Enlightenment has been. I don't see that there's been a period before the Enlightenment where we've ever been like well off. So it seems to me like science works. And
yeah,
I mean,
but no, you're.
I kind of disagree.
This is spiritual based science, though. That's the thing. So it's not
spiritual based science.
Based.
Okay,
that sounds based, bro.
I remember
the non-scientific kind of science. I see.
I remember when this guy started on Newground, and I remember he once told a person, like, if you think positively, you won't be so sick all the time. And a person literally told him, like, you know, my sister's dying of cancer, and I don't think her thinking positively will make her feel better. And this guy who made this company cheekily said to him, like, well, you know, she's probably still sick because she's thinking depressed thoughts. Maybe she thinks more positive thoughts. She wouldn't have such bad cancer.
That's just a
God, you smut shit.
The placebo effect is real.
I know it's real, but it has limits.
It's not like
so does medication.
Yeah, but they're totally different things. Like you can give medication to a person who's sick and dying, and they can believe they're going to die, and they'll still get better. But you can
do that with meditation too.
Not if they believe they're going to die.
Oh man, let me shoot you in the liver. Let me shoot you in the liver, and you'll meditate it away. Okay.
I'll meditate the bullet away before it even hits me, bro. Bring it.
The bullet ceases to be the problem. The internal bleeding is.
Once I reach Zen, I will be completely.
The internal bleeding and/or liver dysfunction. It'll kill you slowly or quickly. Probably slowly though.
I've already.
Not good. Alcohol hasn't already.
I don't exist, so you can't kill me.
And all the ibuprofen. That'll kill your liver too.
What about the amount of food we're going to need if population keeps expanding? How do you guys think we should go about solving that?
I think we eat too much food in the West. We could survive on a lot less, and most of the world would be very well fed.
Yeah.
I think the population self-limits based on how much food is around.
Yeah, that's probably
within a few years. You know?
There's a lot of things like population self-limits because nutrition is what helps children born and survive, and so you have poor nutrition or lack of food, then children won't be born. The problem solves itself.
Yeah, but with the deaths of children. So it's like, I feel at least morally obligated to take a crack at solving this problem, considering...
It's not fun. It's a tough situation all the way around, but I don't know that it's the first crisis on our hands.
What do they call that oscillation, the population thing? It's like there's an oscillation for carrying capacity.
Yeah, I forgot. I can see it in my head.
Your screwed
It's like the
cycle.
models are... I don't know what it's called, but it's just a growth model, right?
Yeah.
You grow enough to where your population can't grow anymore, and then you die off till you can grow more.
Hey, man, I'm a
cycle,
grower, not a shower, bro.
the Chad cycle, I believe, right? So the Chads are the ones that survive, and then they repopulate. Many
The Chad cycle.
It's pretty basic.
The soys all die off.
You only need a few Chads and a lot of women, actually.
Just like 3 Chads and all this.
All the
You need
states.
women and lots of Chads.
All the soys are going like, milady.
Excuse me while
Actually, that's...
Well, if, say, we wanted to prevent children from starving in the near future in order to limit our population, then how might we go about growing enough food for everybody?
We tell the West to stop eating all the food and portion it out properly.
Oh, that's a big old fallacy there.
It might help in the short term.
Me eating less food isn't going to make the food last long enough to send it to people in other countries.
All kinds of, like, most
I know, I'm kidding.
waste happens.
I think Thanos solved this problem in Avengers, right?
Yeah, Thanos did, yeah.
He skipped the starving to death part and went straight to the death part.
So you can have less.
Just...
You have less children, and that's one way you can keep children from being born and starving. But there's all these Pareto distributions that you run into.
Yeah, the problem, in my opinion, of having people have less children is the only people who will listen to you are the smart people. So all the stupid people are going to just breed until they hit that population.
Yeah, that's a movie about that,
They
actually.
made a movie about that, yeah.
What was the movie?
Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Which is a great documentary, man.
It really is
Don't
funny.
bother me, I'm baiting.
Hey, man, I'm baiting. Get out of here.
But yeah, what are we going to give our plants? Electrolytes?
That's what plants crave.
They crave.
In 2016,
Brondo. Yeah, Brondo. That's what they call it.
It turned into a freaking documentary.
It's some of that is very much true, unfortunately.
So much of it has already come true.
Yeah, I
just
mean,
look at New York City; it's already like that.
It's just the way people utilize social media to like read headlines and get no information or false information, and then believe it and create their entire ethos based on, or not even ethos, I should say, their entire worldview based on terrible, half-read fake headlines.
No, I think the ethos. I think it's correct to say they got their ethos from it too.
Yeah, maybe.
You should at least read the whole headline.
They don't, though. It's
Oh,
sad.
I don't have time. I have to go
I gotta-
do my job and things I have to do, and I have to go pick up the kids. And
You got to catch yourself. I've caught myself like perusing and saying, is that real? And then having to go back and double check myself.
Yeah, it's I have a different, what are these things called, servers or whatever, Discord thing.
Discord servers, yeah.
Yeah, and I post a lot of links on it, so I don't have the time to like go through and look at everyone. So it's basically like 3 sources for articles, and they all have science in the name and news. They're all like science, neuroscience news or X science news, and even then, I'll still occasionally catch one that seems off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard, but
Yeah, it is difficult to get that right.
I was expecting a conversation about futurism where we just talk about data.
I was about
Talk
to.
about bacon.
How do
He
you?
was jumping in there with our food source, right? What's our future food source?
Well,
Yeah, the future of food. Well, right now, the human body it's difficult because epidemiology is only able to measure outcomes and not cause. And so we have to like start putting people in cages and getting real experimental results to bar them from many environmental factors so that we can know how to properly feed people. But we got to get some willing and participating.
That's a little dystopian.
I get all of my food science data from the Food Network, and according to them, by the year 2082, Gordon Ramsay is going to be able to feed the entire world just off of profanity alone.
What is this?
Just him and just profanity.
I really do enjoy him, though. I have to say, he's smug and I like it.
Delicious profanity, like holy moly, he's so good at it.
Yeah, leave it to the Brits. They're good at that. They make curse words feel much more comforting. The Brits.
I feel like they deserve them. Like he goes, "You fucking retard," and you're like, "Yeah, that guy's a fucking retard."
Yeah.
When you watch his show, though, when it was in Britain, he was a lot more calmer. He was still very stern and still like very harsh.
Yeah, he hammed it up,
screaming like a madman.
Yeah, he
then
hammed it
got
up.
to America, I think he played it up a bit. I think they
Sure,
want
of course.
to play it up.
Well,
that's
because
how
Americans aren't as subtle, right? With their humor or their ratings, whatever. Yeah.
Like, and when it was in Britain, there was no music, no crazy editing. It was very down to earth.
Actually,
chill.
The more subtle version of him was Alton Brown, who is just as smug but doesn't curse. I really like him too, but I'm an asshole. So
I think that we're going to be able to 3D print food not too long in the future.
How's that going to work? What is the food going to be made with?
Synthetic
you get like
amino acids.
Yeah, there you go. You could synthesize protein sort of, and then
I mean, so long as it's bioavailable. I mean, there's
My only
difficult thing to do right now.
When we were talking about space travel earlier, how are we going to get like water and food on Mars or something? Is there a lot of water on Mars?
There's already a lot of water on Mars.
Oh,
yeah.
You said what was that movie?
The Martian?
No, Total Recall. Remember that machine they had?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Something along those lines.
I still want to know what those clamshells do.
That's a different movie. That's the Demolition Man.
Oh, it's Demolition.
That's the seashells.
God damn it!
It was like 10 years later in the 90s.
Yeah, I got
Demolition Man.
Yeah. The seashells when he comes back. When Stallone comes back and he goes to the bathroom and he's like, "There's no toilet paper," and they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Sandra Bullock has to explain how ancient man used to wipe their ass with wads of paper, and they're like, "Oh, he doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells," which they never explain what that is. It's just like some new method of wiping your ass with seashells or something.
Oh, it's probably a bidet.
Yeah, right, probably.
Remember that. What about bioengineering plants to produce more food?
Yeah, but
we already do that.
It depends. We do it a lot, but
don't we tell you
depends on the goal.
Involve seashells. That is at all a comfortable or desirable improvement to toilet paper.
You don't have to kill trees.
But we need to kill some trees, otherwise
trees will take over.
They got it. Well, I mean, they got to burn. You know what I mean? They gotta manage.
Damn, a lot of tree hate going around, guys.
I mean, they're going to plant our destruction if we're not careful.
Listen, man, we live in a situation where like we kill animals and kill trees to have comfortable lives. We're not living amongst the forest of the Amazon or amongst the polar bears because they'll kill us, and so we kill them. And that's the ecosystem we've built. We're not living in the trees, and we don't need overgrowth in our bedroom.
Yeah, so what if we build a new system from the system we have, where we say engineer the plants to be more bug resistant with whatever toxin, and acorns are bigger and get produced more somewhat, because we don't there's a lot of plants we don't touch and we haven't bioengineered, and we could bioengineer. I believe we've identified the gene that makes things domesticated. So technically we could grab a polar bear and give it a virus real quick and it will come out possibly theoretically
share Coke with you.
be friendlier.
What
Remember,
about, who eats the seals and the narwhals then?
Remember when
It'll still hunt. It'll still get hungry and eat whatever. But now, when a dude walks up to it to pet it, it'll like look at him funny instead of biting their face off.
All right.
just turned bears into giant
The
dogs?
ecosystems are too complex right now. I don't think we have enough understanding of that to make. I mean, but we are talking about the future here, so who knows?
Yeah, I might be able to build a AI algorithm that could help me figure it out, so I don't.
AI could possibly just kill human beings and make it easier on everyone.
Yeah, you want to be careful. Don't make them too sweet.
Yeah, that wants to do that. You just make
that problem
AI
solved.
like, I'm just gonna make a forest. That's all I'm gonna do.
See,
AI is just going to kill people. That's it.
well, I think the whole goal in the first place was to avoid the suffering and death of people.
Well, there's no suffering if you're not alive.
Which people are you talking
It's still the death.
Only one time.
Well, you don't know that, Bruce.
That's true. I don't. I would say, definitely not. But that's.
I had a mushroom trip one time that made me believe reincarnation for about a week.
Jesus.
But that's the longest you can reincarnate for, or
You get a week. It's like
I believe
can
in a special kind of reincarnation. It's reincarnation for a week.
Well, he only has like 5 points in alchemy, so if you want
You only come back for a week.
you get 9 lives like a cat, so you die and like you wake up the next day and you're like you have a headache or something. Then you do it again and you have like a heart palpitation. Till eventually you can't be born. I don't actually know. I'm just making shit up.
There are some people that believe there's a reincarnation that continually occurs, and they continue to come back until they live the perfect life, and they are then reabsorbed into the creator.
I can make.
So there's a whole religion about that, isn't there?
Imagine that.
Judaism.
You got the perfect life. Now we're gonna. It's done. Okay, you're out.
Okay, there goes your individuality. Now you got to be part of the universe.
It's just a little death.
Well, the idea is that you weren't an individual in the first place.
Exactly.
That's the idea.
Yeah, because I like arguing that route, and I feel like I could make a vague reincarnation argument. I just wouldn't. My heart wouldn't be in it.
I've heard it many times.
Yeah, it would basically go something like, when I die, I don't experience anything, and not experience it. That lack of experience would pass by instantly till the next possible experience that I could have. And
I
so,
say I'm gonna start selling reincarnation insurance, man.
reincarnation insurance.
Hey, you get small premiums in this life, and then
I hear the Aseke model is pretty good.
Yeah, so there's this game Borderlands, and in that game, every time you die, there's this company you pay money, and they print off a new you, and you can go continue the game at your last checkpoint. What if we do something like that, where it's like, or the third
Is
day?
that really you, or is that a copy of you, though?
I mean,
matter.
it depends on how you
It would not be
define
you.
self. It really
It
depends.
wouldn't be you because self is in the mind, and the mind isn't just physical.
Well, how do you know self is in the mind?
Well, that's what we are. That's what I would describe it as.
Yeah, so it's like itself could be like a whirlpool. Like you could be the specific pattern that's happening from the underlying stuff, or you could be a specific thing inside your physical body, or you could be your skin and everything within. It just really depends on the definition, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But do you think that's a good idea?
No. I'm really of the interpretation that we are our brains, so I don't really like that copying thing, because I really would think you're just making a copy. You're dead. That's just a different you. That's not really you anymore. You're kind of
different guy.
Yeah.
How about this? Would you rather live in a world where the smartest scientist, let's say Stephen Hawking, because he died a few years ago, where he just continued living and theorizing and figuring out the way things work, creating new technologies?
Excuse me, I think Stephen Hawking died like a decade ago. I believe his wheelchair, which had gained sentience, finally broke down a few years ago.
His soul. No, I think his soul just possessed his wheelchair.
You really can't tell me otherwise.
I think he was one with his wheelchair. They became the same.
They say John Carmack is the one who created that.
You would tell the difference, would you? We're all going to hell and possibly jail.
You're right, Seth.
This is live on YouTube, by the way, guys. So.
Oh, jeez.
We're banned on YouTube and we're going to jail.
Oh no! I said the wheelchair was probably made by John Carmack, so that's why it became self-aware.
John Carmack.
Yeah, guy who created Doom.
Doom and rocket ships and Ferraris and Drift and VR.
Man is a fourth dimensional being. Don't fuck
Why are there humans that still worship God when we've got John Carmack?
John fucking Carmack, indeed.
Like Jesus, what'd he do? Some fish? But John Carmack did Doom.
Yeah,
Okay,
but he also made Quake too, and I mean,
miracles of Carmack. Maybe in the future there's like a Carmack-based religion. The miracles that Father Carmack gave us.
Nikola Tesla would have a religion.
Nikola had a troubled life.
Yeah, I mean, he married a pigeon, but he also did lots of like cool stuff with.
Married a pigeon. What is this story that I don't know? Married a pigeon.
Yes,
the entirety of that story. Okay, like it's over and done with.
I don't know if it's true, but apparently he said once that he loves his pigeon like a man loves a woman.
Oh God, I remember hearing that.
I mean, pigeons are like rats with wings, man.
Dude, that must have been a fantastic pigeon.
I think he was fucking with people. It wouldn't surprise me.
Must have been one heck of a pigeon.
Oh.
Or
whenever you hear like
really shitty
saying crazy shit, I really do think they're just trolling people. They have to be.
No, they don't. They could totally just be crazy.
That's true. So true. Oh.
You ever talk to like really brilliant people that have extremely bad social skills?
Oh God.
Like, bro, you deal with Amazon AWS deployment. Like, there's a multi-billion-dollar company that, like, if you have too many sick days in a row, they take a substantial hit to their stock value.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
you don't understand personal space.
That's what I do for a living.
What's personal space?
AWS.
Yeah. I don't work for them.
How do you feel about personal space, Bruce?
I enjoy my personal space, but I'm an extrovert, so I like people.
People can be nice.
The top level people in like tech companies tend to have super Asperger's.
Yeah, they do. I work with them. They're insufferable.
I remember seeing someone trying to make an argument that people with these kinds of disorders, they're not disorders, they're just different kinds of people. I'm like, I'm not sure how that works. I'm pretty sure because they're not part of the average Mine. There's something wrong with them. Really shouldn't be at that.
That is a little bit mean to say, like, "Hey, you're less human because you got Asperger's." No,
No. I'm just saying
human. They're just a different kind of human.
They're not less human. They're just off. They're kind of broken.
It's broken. Like, how do you know in 1,000 years they won't be the average human?
Yeah, they outbreed. All it takes is one guy with Asperger's to be like super fixated on breeding, to be like, I found a way to sperm donor and get like 1 billion offspring. So
yeah, then he'll be the
win.
dominant. You'll win. You'll have the dominant.
Evolution. He just beats Darwin at his own game.
Right. Like that, he decides that's what he's going to fixate on.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, if you're a female Asperger's person, you don't have that option. So
that's not true.
Sorry.
They could.
You are not going to get millions of offspring as a woman. That's a tall order.
Well, no, you just take your eggs and put them in artificial wombs.
Yeah, you still don't have millions of eggs.
Yeah.
You could convince your brother to give sperm at that sort of rate and then propagate your genes that way.
His genes.
Yikes.
If you notice, all of the genes that he has are in his body. Your genes are in your body.
But if you were me, then I'd be you, and I'd use your body to get to the top.
Right.
You remember that? Ace Ventura bit.
Oh.
I want crazy future conversation about baseless thought experiments.
Baseless accusation. Baseless. This baseless is a dog whistle to anti-conservatives or leftists.
Conservatism is dead. Neoconservatism killed it.
That's right. Alt-right is king.
No, there's no such thing as alt-right. Alt-right is just like, I don't like the left.
No, that's not true.
It doesn't have anything to say. It's just whatever the left doesn't like, I super like.
You need to make some more friends with alt-right folks.
No, I really don't. Thank you.
But I'm telling you, that's not the case, though, is what I'm saying.
Please educate me. All of my alt-right education is based off of Jordan Peterson clips.
The alt-right do not like JP.
No, they do
I
not.
thought they love JP.
God, no, they fucking hate his guts.
Hardly.
No, so you're conflating you're conflating people that are actually alt-right with what he calls alt-right.
Consider alt-right
completely different things.
I consider alt-right to be the people who just don't like the left.
No,
that's like 90%. That's 90%.
The alt-right.
Doesn't it depend on interpretation? Alt-right.
No, the alt-right in America.
Interpretations.
That's why I had an interpretation. I presented it.
In America, the alt-right actually used to be a very racist, kind of fascist group, and then Milo Yiannopoulos tried to take that phrase and try to make it more
like Milo either.
Right alternative, and it didn't pan out because the Nazis didn't go away, and now it's back to being a kind of like just a right-leaning fascist movement. That's why they don't like Jordan Peterson.
The word alt means interpretation.
Yeah, but they sullied that. They sullied that word.
I've never heard anybody be like, "Yeah, hey man, I'm the alt-right." I always hear people who are on the alt-right be like, "But I'm not alt-right, really. It's the other guys."
Like
Then
that's the thing. That's the thing. It's vague. It exists, but it doesn't exist. It's a gray.
It exists.
You can't say what it is. You can't say if it is or isn't something. It's alternative.
You do have like conservatives that aren't neoconservatives. They're just small. And then you have the alt-right. Like there are the Proud Boys, and then there are the alt-right.
Anything from the norm is alt-right.
Yeah.
From the old norm of conservatism.
I don't know where you guys are coming up with this. This is like
Is it a major problem that there's no consensus on what this major political undertone is?
That's what it is.
It's not major.
That's why I say
that's
why
exactly what
define
it is.
what it's not, right? It's like what constitutes the alt-right is just a strong not leftism thing. So if you're like, you know what Democrats want, like healthcare and human rights, well, we don't want those things.
Yeah,
that's all right.
No,
I get you.
The alt-right, like I said before earlier, in America, it started out as a fascist movement. Now, others try to change it. It failed, and there are still Nazis and fascists in that movement. And then you got people that aren't alt-right but aren't neoconservatives, and then you have the neoconservatives, the neocons.
So where is JP in this?
JP is in the middle.
He's a liberal. He's a liberal.
Yeah, a liberal. Liberal is middle. Yeah.
They hate him.
Left. Yeah, it goes left.
Jordan Peterson
liberal,
is not,
and right.
No, you cannot possibly say you're for
like time, and nobody
the dude is liberal.
You can't be like, enforced monogamy and snakes and
he doesn't want forced monogamy.
Everything that guy says.
That's his straw man.
Like by the
that's a humongous straw.
Didn't he literally say like enforced monogamy on an interview? I'm sorry.
No. What he said was
You've been Rupard.
No, what he said was it's better.
He's a right-wing grifter, man.
It's better to be in a monogamous relationship than like a polyamorous one, or it's better to be in a monogamous relationship than like cheat on your spouse.
Oh please, man. He's just a grifter, man.
I think
he pretends
as if he's
a grifter. The context of the conversation.
That's all
pretend.
He
was talking about monogamy being better, and he's societally enforced, basically. He doesn't mean like right laws.
Pressured.
Yeah. He doesn't mean like right laws to make monogamy a
yes, that too. Right. He's like
anything other than. But the context of the situation was, how do you deal with the rising number of incels?
Yeah.
Well,
like.
Find the quote.
Don't listen to JP. That's how you help him.
The reality of the situation is that in the Tinder world, the growing Tinder world, a small percentage of men get all the dates.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's going to leave. Since if you get rid of monogamy, that's going to leave society with. The
Chads get everything.
A few Chads that get all the chicks. And then a whole bunch of incels.
All right, so
if you're complaining about incels, then you have to realize that the source of this is actually that all the women are attracted to the alphas. Well, not all of them, but a large majority of the women are going to be attracted to the same top echelon of men, and average men don't stand much of a chance of reproducing. And one of the benefits of a monogamous society that was previously enforced by religion and by strict cultural norms was that a larger portion of the males have a chance to reproduce.
He's just talking about socially enforced, as opposed to people taking that to mean some sort of draconian government enforced monogamy.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, well, but if you think about it, if you're a leftist, then the framing of government is responsible for solving most social problems.
So I believe the quote,
which a lot of leftists would share, it would be totally reasonable for a person to think that that's what he meant, because if you start with the frame that government should be solving our social problems.
Okay, interpretations aside, let's just look at the actual quote. So the quote was, he was angry at God for women rejecting him, Mr. Peterson says of the Toronto killer. And then, quote, the cure for that is enforced monogamy. That's actually why monogamy emerges. Okay, I mean, you might say that there's a greater context.
Yeah, it's still it's way out of context.
Yeah, it really is.
They were talking about a killer that was an incel, right? And he was lashing out for being an incel.
And the problem is not all incels are the same. Some incels are like disgusting, woman-hating nice guys that think they deserve sex. And then you got the ones that are like literally just boring uninteresting people that can't get dates.
It's like
They're
the last fucking thing we need is another fucking group label. Like, suck my dick. Get that out of here.
You talking about incel? You talking about incel?
Like these fucking group labels, man. Just
people do. We label things.
No,
but
but
if you don't
attribution, like
if you don't jump on what the label is, people will make their own, and you can complain about all you want, but if you want something better, you gotta prevent it before it gets.
My
someone
point
comes up with something that's dumb.
Is stop reducing people to group labels and group identity. They have a name. What practical use outside of some weird social stigma does the label incel have?
So we just call everybody humans? We
all have names. Nivik, your name's Nivik.
But people don't.
I'm saying we refer to people have categories, though.
Yeah, the tribalism in human nature is not going to let us.
I don't believe in those categories.
It's very hard.
I don't believe in them either. But
trying to
we
say
do that.
incels are like a class of people, but it's definitely a word that is now it's arisen as a shortcut, to describe the phenomenon that so many young males are having trouble establishing a relationship.
Yeah,
with
so you can.
That doesn't mean they're involuntarily celibate. It just means they haven't done well so far.
Yes, that's the point.
Haven't done well so far.
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane.
The big problem is that people self-identify as things like this. So
people have many.
That's what I'm saying.
People have many labels, though.
This is internet LARPing.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Yeah, but that's a problem. The best thing you can do is try to make the label less dirty.
Internet LARPing.
It really is, though.
It's just like people piling on 4chan and Reddit, and it's like, this is a real thing. It's like, come on, people, this isn't a real thing. Okay? There's no one.
It kind of becomes a real thing when people embody it at some point.
Well, people make labels and then they make games out of those labels. Like the whole economy is based off of this. We started something small and made it a meme, and then made math with that meme, and then who could do the best math?
Yeah.
And now we're at where
everything's gonna have labels. Our media has labels.
No. I'm talking about labeling human beings with this random crappy shit. We already have labels.
Human beings naturally have random labels.
No, they don't naturally have random labels. We have our names.
Meaning, you'd say,
I got a name.
I gotta push back against that label thing. It's when I was born, they immediately had a label maker and they put right on top of.
So your name is a label?
Well, I got a social security number. Does that count?
Okay, well, let's call everyone by their social.
And then another group, and then
your
another
social security number is a nominal way for the government to be able to track you, but the name is your name. That is your label. That's who we know you as. And these people that feel obsessed needing to say, this is my sexual proclivity, this is my religious proclivity, this is my political proclivity. Wow. Wow.
I think
it's sad, but people.
What we should do is we should just refer to everybody by their entire complete social security number.
Yes, you are 0111059.
Hey, I hate labels too.
Same, but they're just something that just keeps happening. I don't know what you're supposed to do about it.
Yeah, we should just. I think I'm coming with this social security stuff, guys.
Just identify as your name, and then if someone wants to have a conversation with you about politics, you can say where your political leanings are if you so choose. But don't wear it like it's a fucking name. That's not your name. That's not who you are. Your ideology is not who you are.
Your labels make
it's better to not start by identifying your team before you learn what subject you're going to be.
Exactly.
Because then you're going to have a presupposition.
I don't know. I think
which will make you ignore half of the information.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Look, if you're like, hey, you know what? We shouldn't do this team thing. You're missing the point. There's definitely political ideologies and things that society should be distancing itself from. That's the nature of progress, right? I mean, like you don't want to be you don't want to be a guy who's like, you don't want to be for the Confederate States, right?
I do.
Put that.
What's wrong
pretty
with
much put that.
Bruce and Doolittle do.
Travis, I agree with you, but you have to
I live
be
in a
kind of
Confederate
very
state.
clever when it comes to going around labels, because some people, they gravitate to their label. I get it. You don't want to bring up certain things because you don't want to categorize. You just want to be rational. You don't want to put anybody in a box. Because it puts people against each other, kind of.
Yeah,
we do that for a little bit because it makes a good shorthand, right? So there are ideologies that are in the dustbin of history and deserve to be there. Right?
But who gets to decide
the
now?
ideology?
Who's the authority on that?
Is more than.
The people aren't in the dustbin of history.
I mean, you're going to be looking at
it's bad ideas that are in the dustbin of history.
That's the thing, is that there are people who still identify with crazy irrational ideas that have been tried and then failed, and then still identify with those things.
Yeah, and you don't shun them from society. You talk to them and try to get them.
Yeah, so I'm saying stop identifying with ideas, because the war of ideas is continuous, and you're going to find yourself out of those ideas and possibly back in adopting new other ideas. So stop treating that like it's the label of you when we already have that.
I absolutely heard, but I'm just saying, like, there's a reason why people do that to some extent, right?
You can't stop that, Travis. People are going to do it. It's not easy.
Yes, you can. It's called promoting individualism as opposed to promoting group identity.
People want to be part of a group. Some people don't want to be an individual.
I'm making an opt claim. People should opt.
Some people are just followers. Some people lead, some people follow.
In order for you to know what group you wish to follow, you must know something about yourself. So the individual is the start of the group. So you don't start with the group, because it's a path to nowhere.
But the problem is, the reason why these people adapt to these groups is because they don't know what to do with themselves. So they cling to these ideologies. And they
who are you
cling
talking
to
about in that one? Which people?
Identity.
Is that anyone, or is that all people? Like, what exactly do you mean?
Yeah, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about people who don't know what to do with themselves.
They get their identity. They get their identity through the group, I guess.
Yeah.
They for their guidance. They what do you call? They're part of a community kind of thing. It's like that's who they are. They're of that group. They're of the community. They get their identity from that community.
Exactly.
And they just whatever.
And
they just go along with the
community rewards them with like any kind of climbing of like hierarchies and shit. They're gonna invest into it. You know, if they get like they get like benefits from it and stuff, they're gonna commit to it, which is scary. You know, once they start swaying more people in that group, you know, it becomes very enticing to want to be part of that group ideology, because you can benefit from it. It starts out like, oh, I need friends. I can't make friends. I'll join this group and I'll have friends. And then it evolves in, hey, if I do this and this, more people will like me, and I'll get more sway and influence. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And when if you're at the outside of that, it can be nasty.
Oh yeah, it is, and that's the sad part. You know.
It could be a feeding frenzy. They could cannibalize you.
Yeah, like that's what SJWs do. They find people that they think they can get like basically virtue signaling points from. They hunt them down. They said like, hey, I found this person. They said X in the past. They're racist. Honor with admiration. They're trying to climb their
and you say
hierarchy.
It's a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, they try to climb that social hierarchy. Okay, they want to benefit from it.
Is that what we want our future world to look like?
God no, but it's very difficult to fight against. I think the best thing you can do is you try to
as well. Remember,
the best we can do is try to like accept the labels. Like, yeah, this is me, and it's not a big deal. Like the label should be treated as a piece of you, not the entirety of your person. Like each of those labels help build up who you are. They're like a puzzle piece. You're not just a person, or you're not just a left-leaning person, or a tractor trailer driver, or this or that. You're a culmination of these things. You know.
Yeah, but for each of those things, that's a signal that saves a lot of time. Like,
I know.
I don't have time to get to know every person on the earth, so I'm just gonna like rule out the person who's like, "Hey, I'm a flat earther." Probably not going to be a good source of conversation.
I mean, I tried
very
talking
entertaining
to
for a
people.
couple hours.
Yeah, they're pretty funny, and sometimes they can be chill people. Sometimes they can be a little goofy.
This is the risk of groups. People gravitate to groups when you're trying to rationalize, and then they go into their corners, and now you can't have a rational conversation or anything because people are just about their team now. They're about that. They're not about.
But I think
this plus this equals this kind of reasoning.
The best thing we can do is to try to fill that void with better groups, with better values.
That's how come you say take things out of it, like politics. Take race out of it. Take that out of it. What plus what equals what? Don't you dare bring up this or that or any type of connection to this affiliation or anything. Please don't. Please God,
or
don't
if you
do
do
that
bring
because
those up,
it's going to go south if you do that.
Or if you do bring those up like adults. Don't be judgmental. Don't be harsh.
Adults are very harsh and judgmental.
I know. We have to avoid that.
There's just.
I think we've got pretty far off the topic here.
I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
Pretty far off the topic.
Talking about incels, and Travis came in and
talking
said,
about futurism.
We could kind of go off this, how might we create a future where people aren't defining themselves by their group identity?
I think we can start by maybe getting rid of the political parties. Those aren't helping.
Let's make a group of people who don't identify with group identity.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
We'll call them like the A. It's like the A identifiists
or individualists, basically.
Libertarians,
atheists. There's like.
So are we discussing what are the best routes to move forward into the future?
The question, Nivik, was how do you create a future, or in the futurism realm here? What does this future utopia look like where people don't presuppose a group identity, and how do you get there?
By the world connecting together more.
Find common humanity.
Humanity.
I could see you could learn that like is not every Nazi is super evil, kill all of these people. A lot of them are just sad people that
need to be talked out of it.
I think that's good. It might be asking a bit much of people.
I completely understand that too, but I mean, when you adopt a pretty like what people term as an evil ideology, there's a reason why they're probably doing that, and I don't think they're just adapting because they just want to be evil or anything. They're adapting because they're desperate or something, and they need to be talked out of it. Some
people do just want to be edgy and evil. They don't
really care. They don't really believe in it then.
And even then, almost always, like barring a psychopath or something, like they will have a motive somewhere. Like they might hate the people who are doing all these good things because they dislike society that is built by it or whatever X reason. It seems to me anyway that most people are reasonable to an extent.
Yes.
They have their presuppositions that they are. It's like the anchor. They have these anchors that weigh them down to their spot in the ocean.
But if the world's more connected, people don't like that. They call it globalization. They say that's a bad thing.
Depends on how it's connected.
Depends on how it's connected, and it depends on where the hierarchy is.
Yeah.
Because globalization for most people means that they no longer have localized control of their everyday lives, and they must defer to a global authority when they do anything.
Yeah, no one wants that.
That's why.
Yeah, or
Okay,
or
so if the world,
the
so
manufacturing
people have
base is not
issue
in
with the
Europe.
world being less connected, and so what's the issue with it being less connected? Because you can't do what you want to do, right? Like in the past, because you can't just because other people who aren't of much power would have a say. It sounds like people who want unfair crony because unfair crony rule is globalization, because in the past of imperial colonialism is where you didn't have the world wasn't as connected, but it worked in a different way where it was at the expense of.
No, we're talking about the future, and how do you get there?
No, I'm saying the globalization being looked at as bad in the world being more connected. The opposite of that, when it was less connected, wasn't good for a lot of people around the world.
There's nothing wrong with having everyone connected through communication or trade. I just don't want, Europe to tell me I can't do something in my state of Pennsylvania. That's it.
That's fair enough, but you're gonna have to deal with globalization sooner.
But but with the future, you don't think the future would be the world being more connected?
No, that doesn't mean it's more connected. That's not. We can't pick and choose. I have to have the rest of the world dictate what my state can or can't do.
How do you think progress comes about, though?
Maybe to an
because
cooperation
you get from other countries by
but why does it have to come
common
to that?
ground? Well, no, it's not. You don't tell anybody. It's common ground. It's commonality. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
the law is going to.
You can't do. Nobody can have things just their way. If you're gonna work together, you get what I mean? You're gonna have to have some type of mutual beneficial agreement.
I understand what you're saying, but we don't want to go to.
Can I say that there's some people that don't want that? They don't like the idea of mutual beneficial agreement, and they want to be. Some people are power hungry.
Yes, all I want is that there's not too much overreach and too much consolidation of power into one place. That's bad. Okay,
It's not in one place.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So Nivik
because if you're
connected, the idea that
you can't do.
Nivik seems to be into the idea that if you have one faction, that's not one faction. Sorry, it seems to be under the idea that if you globalize, then there will be power spread among all the people. Evenly,
and somebody can't just have their way.
Yeah, but if you see that now, even in a small scenario, there are factions of people that are controlled at a centralized way, but at least it's manageable in a more localized fashion.
The reason why the world isn't as bad as it is today because it's so damn connected. You can't just have war against China because China and the US are kind of joined at the hips. I'm not saying I'm pro China. I'm just saying that a lot of things that people did in the past, they can't really do today because their interests are so and their economies are so entwined that it's not as.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. The point I'm just trying to make is that if I'm in the state here in my country, the state of Pennsylvania, is being prevented to do something because some other country doesn't want me to do it, that is not right. We don't want it to come to that. That's too much. That's overreach. So why does some other country get to decide what my state does? That's strange.
Yeah. So I have a refutation for that. It's not a hard refutation. Like, that's an understandable thing. Like, hey, look, we want to be able to do our thing. But and if you're going to have integration, there needs to be common law over the people who are integrated. And whenever you have commonality, there's pros and cons, right? So, like, let's take the state of Pennsylvania and the federal government. So the federal government is going to de facto is going to have to take some taxes from some states and reallocate it to other states, net tax donors and net tax receivers, right? So because we all benefit from common law, there's going to be some trade-offs there. And yeah, I'm sure there's areas of governmental overreach or higher court overreach. Like, there are people who complained about the European Union in the UK and made some very stupid moves, in my opinion.
I mean,
and
they gain their sovereignty back. Why is that stupid?
they benefited more from the European Union than the European Union cost them. Like the EU gave them like the best deal ever, or better than the EU gave to other.
So you
what deal? Wait, what deal did the EU? What deal did the EU give them when it came to them ponying up the money for the debts of Greece, Italy, and other failed states and countries?
Are you talking about? You're talking about Britain?
I am not.
That's the issue. Economically, it was a problem.
So I'm not an expert to the level that I can actively defend that for you, but I can maybe point you to the expert source that I heard that conclusion from.
Why did they go in the first place? Why did they join in the first place?
Britain benefited them.
It was just for trade benefits, but then it got too big and tried to become something it wasn't. It tried to become like America 2.0, and like
how did it benefit them?
It just benefited from trade at first.
It benefited them from giving them access to immigration, skilled and low-skilled immigration. It benefited them for integration with other European states in order
because they had more sway.
Yeah,
but then countries got less and less
It's funny how you framed it as giving them access to low-skilled, skilled and low-skilled immigration. That's why they left. They didn't want the immigration.
If you have cheap labor come into your country to do work, like the U.S.
that saved Britain, by the way. That saved Britain, by the way. That cheap labor.
The U.S.
but then it has its limits.
Yeah, the U.S. has the same relationship with immigration. We have basically so the majority of our natural-born citizens have sort of center of the bell curve type skills, and we have a large portion of our super high-skilled PhD type people come in on the H-1B visa, and a large majority of the super cheap labor that Americans typically don't want to work, that's done by immigration as well. So America gets a win-win from immigration. We get to take the really smart people that we don't have Americans to do those jobs, and we also get to take in the people who are extremely hardworking that are willing to do work that Americans are not willing to do. Like a lot of our agriculture is dependent on seasonal workers from South America. Like you cannot get Americans to pick.
Yeah, and all those people are coming legally, right?
$3 an hour. No, absolutely, they don't come in here legally. Not all of them, especially the ones on low skilled labor.
Well, no, I have a problem with the ones that aren't coming here legally. That's not good.
A lot of the H-1B,
there's quite a lot of them that do
overstay their visas as well. Like people overstay student visas.
Yes, I know a lot of them do that. That's still not good.
So the way the U.S. used to deal with this quote unquote problem,
don't more fly in than come into the border, come over the border.
That's
the biggest problem is that this has a limit to how much we can benefit from the immigrants. When our population was smaller, the boom benefited from us. Now we're getting to a point where, we're getting a lot of people here, and they keep going to the cities, and they're overpopulating the cities, and they're not. There's not.
You're saying they're not adding.
They're not adding
population.
That's not true. No, if you don't,
it has its limits. There's no
for them to come. Okay, let's be honest. If it's about them coming and then having their way, I can get that argument. You know what I'm saying? But don't say. But I don't buy it in not adding, because I get it. A lot of people come and now they vote, and then they pretty much run. You know what I mean? They have their way in running things. I could kind of
I don't have a problem if they come here legally. My problem is the ones that come here illegally, or they stay here illegally. And I wouldn't have a problem giving the ones that come on visas. They may want to stay.
You don't want people having political power sway in.
No, I just don't want them. I just don't want them here illegally.
I can understand that. I don't
want them here illegally.
It is an honest. I can get that.
Yeah, because it's not fair to the people. It's not fair to people who come here legally, and it's not fair to people that were born here.
You know how we used to deal with illegal immigration? We used to turn a big blind eye to it, and then if somebody committed any crimes, we would tack that on as like some extra stuff, and they'd be like, "Hey, and by the way, this guy isn't even here legally." And then that's how we used to deal with it.
Way in the past?
No, like how far back was the 90s and 2000s?
And to be honest,
immigration was very loose in the past.
I also saw examples of people who were here for a long time, but then when they found out they were illegal, they offered to like pay back taxes and stuff. I have no problem with that, and they got to stay here legally. I have no problem with that.
The illegal immigrants are already net tax assets to the U.S.
How? They don't
because they do work. They're not here. They're not here in a way where they don't want to pay taxes and then get found out. So they pay us. Like this is this. Hang on.
How do illegals pay taxes?
It's about political power, man. People don't want that. I can understand that.
It's not
That's
about
all
political
it is.
power for
That's
me.
all it is about.
It's not. It's about my principle about it's not for the people that are here illegally.
Hey, I can understand like a rep saying a political rep going like, why would these people are going to vote me out? Why would I want that?
I don't care about that. My care is about the people.
You wouldn't care about that. Really?
No, the thing I care about is it's not fair to the people that are here legally. It's not fair to the people that come here legally that put the work in to become a legal citizen.
And clearly, the law needs to change to make these people who are coming here and doing work and being, productive members of society more so than natural-born citizens. Natural-born citizens are the people who end up on welfare and end up being like, net tax drains the U.S. We should probably change our law to be more like, beneficial for ourselves.
Oh, we should probably have more work
should be able to have less of a problem. Make more people go to work and all that kind of stuff.
My other problem is like, I don't want businesses that, in order to have functions, they need illegal immigrants to work at them. No, that business has a right to. That business should bomb. I don't want it to survive. You're not going to get free, cheap labor.
So hypothetically, if it was people coming in illegally and they came in a lot, you wouldn't have issue about them having.
If they came here legally, I have no problem because if that's what they want to do, they want to vote to change things. That's their prerogative because they came here legally.
Huge amounts of the construction labor market and agriculture labor market are from illegal immigrant labor. Like
and that's not good to have it built on that.
Like we literally we need.
They're huge.
We should not be okay with that. That's wrong. Those jobs should be going to legal citizens.
And the prices of the goods and services that are provided by
would explode
by those businesses should go up.
It would explode, and people wouldn't be able to afford houses more so than they already do.
I'm very sure the people would probably be able to afford it because there also could be the possibility those people will end up working those jobs.
Man, these people are exploited. These people are exploited like big time, man. In every way possible.
That's why I don't want. That's another problem. I don't want people coming here illegally and get exploited. I don't want them coming here illegally and getting exploited. That's not fair to them.
They're used.
Yeah, I don't like
that. They're not worthless.
They don't like how illegal immigrants are exploited either. And because they're illegal, it's harder to help them if they were legal.
I do agree that we should be paying good living wages and benefits to people, even if they're legal or not. I agree that. I agree that we should pay more.
And if you don't want them to outsource the jobs, put fucking taxes on outsourcing jobs.
It's like
I don't care about corporations. Corporations go fuck themselves.
Why do you think they come here?
Yeah, because it's not
a lot of our policies bring those people here.
I'm just saying they're coming here because they want to work here, and I understand that.
Some people
they get exploited.
Some people want the cheap labor. I'm saying a lot of the policies bring them here. I believe it's deliberate.
Yeah, that's when I think the fact that we outsourced our jobs also affected it. Here's the thing: if we didn't outsource our labor, I wouldn't have such a problem with it. If there weren't all these other compounding factors, I wouldn't have such a problem with legal immigration, but it's all these other things with it. I don't want my jobs being outsourced. I want heavy taxation.
We have these countries that are crapped on that have cheap wages. Have your job be outsourced to?
Yeah, I don't like
a lot of the policies that we have are around the globe are contributing factors. They need to be changed in a way where
I wouldn't even mind putting in legislation, making it so like if you're an American company, you outsource, you have to pay those people, proper wages, because what the fuck is the point? we're just assisting. Why is it? Why would we want to give China all this money so they can exploit their people? It's disgusting. How is that capitalist?
They have to develop. Look, there have been tens of millions of people every
develop. We don't want them to develop. We want the cheap labor.
Yeah, I don't want to exploit the cheap labor. I don't care about the corporations. I don't care if we tank them and we end up with more smaller businesses.
You realize China has pulled 1 billion people out of global poverty in the last 3 decades?
Yeah, and they also killing
different.
And genociding people. I don't care.
Chinese work like army ants. Chinese work like army ants. You can't compare them to Americans.
Their own people in poverty through communism, and then they pulled them out through us outsourcing jobs to them. Great job, China.
Yeah.
China doesn't play when it comes to doing what they got to do. U.S. can't move like that.
I don't know. It's one of these dirty C-word countries that
has they work they bust their butt for 10 cents an hour. You know what I mean? Millions of people working for many years.
And the government just does whatever.
America can't roll like that.
You have China.
It's not built like that.
You have China killing the Uyghurs and shit and all the other disgusting shit that government does. I don't like that government. It's a disgusting fucking government.
That's true.
They don't respect human rights at all.
Billions of people will work like medieval serfs for decades in China.
Yeah, I don't like that.
America don't have that.
I don't like assisting that. I don't like giving money to that. I don't know why Republicans thought it was a great idea.
Well, China's better now. They're better now. You know, they're.
Well, I heard the current leader.
But they did they sacrificed what they had to do to get where they had to get where they are.
I heard the current leader kind of made it worse because I remember watching a person who used to live in China.
No, China's more developed now, man. It's not like the past.
It's also more racist now, and they don't fucking like white people. Yeah. I saw a guy had to fucking flee that country. I watched him. He fled that country because the secret police were coming after him, and he had to fucking leave with his wife. After the new leader came in for president for fucking life.
Jinping?
Yeah, fuck Jinping. He's a bastard. He's a disgusting little monster.
They think that Westerners hate them and they want to destroy them.
Well, I just don't want to work with them. They're disgusting fucking. I'll say this: it's the government's that's disgusting. I don't have any ill will towards the people. Their government just disgusts me. Okay, you're like, yeah, they build up all these things at the cost of people's liberty and killing and genociding people for their organs to sell in the black market. Fuck that country. They're an awful country. Well, their government's awful. Okay.
Do you think the people of China are not at fault? It's only the government.
I think to a degree, yeah, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me that a lot of those people are probably brainwashed.
How many people are in China?
A lot of
1.2 billion.
A billion?
2 billion?
A billion, 1 billion. 1 billion.
Right.
1.2 billion.
Yeah.
Right. So you think they have no power in the influence that occurs at government?
Nope.
I don't know. I mean, the government seems to have such a stronghold there. I don't know why there's no rebellion in that country.
China's crackdown.
It's a product of their. It's a product of their complacency.
China's very, very.
That's like saying
crackdown.
That's like saying victims of concentration camps is their fault because they're complacent with it.
After so long,
that's one way to put it.
I don't know. That's a very complicated problem.
At some point, you can't say it's government only, though.
I know what you mean, but there are so many people in that billions that benefit from what the government does, and they're keeping the rest down.
Okay, so then that's once again what I'm saying is it's not the government. People are complicit as well.
Yeah. I just don't know what.
But then also you also have the burden of assuming they hold the same values you do at all.
That's true.
China and the West had a nasty past history.
I mean, we did mess with them for centuries and centuries and centuries. So there's that.
You ass raped them and fucked them, and they mentioned you every time you watch them on television. They mention that they said we're not the same. And remember, I don't know why they're hung up on the past, but they always bring it up. It's like, remember when you did this
like
to
I
us?
said,
You bombed
one
us,
point
and
they
you
weren't.
gave us opium, and you drugged us out, and all of that stuff. And it's
There-
kind of like
There was a point where they were a lot more accepting of Americans.
they're hung
It
up.
seemed like
They're
they
very
were.
hung up about the West.
There was a
They're-
point where
they're
it seemed
still
like they
bu-
were.
They're not just hung up
accepting
about the
and it
West.
just
The
changed.
Chinese were been in brutal wars and occupation from Japan for many, many, many years as well. So it's not just the West at all.
With the West, the Japan allied with the West.
Not in the early days. Before the West was ever a force, they were fighting, occupying China. Way before that.
But anyways, when the West was imposing on China, when they were imposing on China, the Japanese were allying, were doing it along with China. Along with the West.
Feud is older than the West prominence by a long shot.
Yeah, I know. They always hate each other. That's
so it's not a product of the West, their issue with Japan or Korea. So I mean we can't just start saying that like the Chinese have been oppressed or ass raped by the West alone. That's not true.
No, every country affects everyone in some way.
Everyone
fucks with each other. Everyone fucks with each other.
Depends on where you want to draw the line historically as far as the dates are concerned.
Yeah.
But that's arbitrary.
The problem is like I do wonder why.
There's so
many people in that country. Why don't they stand up against the government? And there are people in there that seem to.
In the past, there was yellow peril fear of Chinese mistreatment in the West. Those things are in their minds, and they thinking like that's what they're
I'm
hung
also
up
trying
on.
to say earlier, but that person I watched who used to live in China, before he left, it seemed like a completely different place. People liked him. It was very accepting. He had a great time living there for I think like 10 years.
Americans massacred Chinese.
He taught people English there.
In the U.S., they did when they were in the U.S. Yes.
Yeah, they're pretty hard on them. I mean, like
when they were in the U.S., that happened.
They target them with laws that actually said anti-Chinese law, anti-Chinese act.
And that's wrong.
And when they they made it hard for them. Can we get off
of politics? Can we get off of politics?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
I'm just
that's going to drive
you the relationship.
To a large extent. It's going to drive people away from the philosophy discourse. I think we had a topic here of futurism. I wanted to ask Bruce, on the previous line, do you think people ought to? I know that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says that we have the right to, but do you think people ought to organize into nations if we are going to become a spacefaring civilization? Or is it better to not organize into nations for the purpose of exploring and colonizing space?
You have to.
Well, we already are. I mean, so it kind of depends. You could take some other frontiers that we've gone into in the Earth. Like, so for instance, there are agreements that we have, like in occupation of Antarctica, right? And so, should we be in nations? Well, there would be a reason to have nations because you still have to maintain your local political, and the people that currently exist on those places. So, I think you'll see like federations align, but you still have your national identity because the local place will still exist. So it's just like NATO or the UN or any other scientific endeavor where people are coming together with some standards. That's what I think would occur. It's not if one's better than the other. I just think that it's natural that people would form some union.
I mean, I don't think it's necessary that one's not better than the other. I think one probably is better than the other. I'm not sure which one, but like for example, when Europe was colonizing North and South America, they certainly did organize into nations, right? And that actually
well, I mean, you had the Dutch,
it accelerated the exploration and the land grabbing and the I would say it accelerated the colonization because there was like a race, right, to get there before the other nations.
Yeah, it's competition in the space wars too.
And how has the treaty for not allowing nations in Antarctica fared for accelerating the colonization there?
Yeah, right. You have a point as far as competition, capitalism is concerned. That's a fair point. So the same thing with the space race, right? So
like the ISS.
That's a lot of money too with the space, right? Potentially, I hear you could like do mining in space, and your money would be like insane.
So Nick, do you think it would be? So let's just say that we have a hypothetical situation where we're trying to send some mining craft to the asteroid belt to get some of them nickel asteroids or whatever they're made of. You got a palladium asteroid, you got a nickel asteroid, whatever you want to grab it for the rare metals. Do you think that a one world government would be more effective at efficiently capturing and utilizing those resources and deciding which ones to get, or do you think that people breaking off into corporations or nations or corporations sponsored by nations and having sort of like a race which one do you think would be better at utilizing those resources?
Damn. Is it audible? Is it am I?
We can hear you, Pat.
Awesome,
I think, dude. Awesome.
I think what they could probably do is, it depends. I think when they're starting out with this kind of expansion, it would benefit us if we just had we sort of just share technology and station. Don't we kind of share the space station we have right now with other?
You have to.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that and sort of just sharing the resources.
That was only after we had done our initial push to even get to that point, which was fueled by competition. We can't look at inefficient small governments that we have now and advocate for a larger government, assuming that it would be more efficient. So it's if the issue of efficiency now is in slow-moving federal processes, the answer isn't a larger, slow-moving organization.
Hey, welcome, Pabmar. I know you've been chatting on YouTube. What have you been hearing? Like, what's your take so far?
I suppose that it's my take so far is I hear that there's a relationship between countries and a lot of different degrees in which you can analyze them, and then the different categories of this mechanism of I would say spreading resources or dealing with this. That's what I'm hearing so far. I don't have the proper terminology.
Cool, man. Well, here, feel free to.
That's a good take.
Feel free to just say when you have a point, and people will give you a chance to speak. So welcome,
Bruce.
Yeah. So in case you missed the previous conversation, we were originally talking about futurism and how do we. I guess one of the questions was how do you fuel the expedition into the stars, and then how do you feed people? How are people going to feed each other? And then slight side bar into politics, and then back to is it better to form coalitions or nations, if you will, to explore in competition with each other?
Bruce, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question,
Bruce?
Or
would it be better to do
hang on,
like a globalist approach to conquering space? And why?
Can I ask you a question, Bruce?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, do you think competition is the only drive of doing something? You can't have a challenge to drive you. You know what I mean? There has to be a competition between another in order for you to raise up, in order for you to come to a level to reach I get the logic between pressure.
Are you trying to
But
formulate a
but
question in
he's saying
regards
that
to
you have to
the
have
progression of a person? Is that what you're trying to formulate? Kind of like how does one have an intrinsic motivation with the balance of the extrinsic forces? I would say. How does one move forward? Like, is that your question? How does one like how where does motivation come from?
exactly. That's not.
Sounds like that's
Okay,
his
I see.
question. Yeah. Is
You don't
competition the
necessarily.
only motivator, or is it the best one, or not at all?
Well,
Yeah,
that
it can't
question
be the
deals
only
with the
motivator. You can have
environment.
a challenge
Hey,
without needing competition
Nivik,
from another person.
Nivik, make sure you're letting other people talk, man. You got to give people chances. It's not just your turn to respond every time.
He's got it. He's got it. I would say if you're gonna question, if you're gonna I guess settle upon that question of why is it that I'm progressing? Why is it that how can I move forward in a healthy manner? Or how is it that by that principle even is functional? If you're gonna ask that, you're gonna also have to ask, intrinsic questions, which are how the hell is this environment functioning and why? And that deals with a lot of origin questions, like why are we moving why are we functioning within this environment? What made it that way? That deals with biology, all these different academic issues. So if you're going to ask that question, buddy, you're going to really have to ask a lot of other ones and answer a lot of other ones, I would say. I don't know. Sorry, guys. Carry on, though.
And I think I was saying earlier is I think how it would start is that the corporations would probably work together with whatever asteroids they can get to, and once they expand and get bigger, companies and corporations and countries can start taking their own, pieces of asteroids. Then they can start claiming territory once going around collecting stuff from space gets easier. It'll probably start as a united effort and then spread off into a competitive effort. But that will probably take a long time for that to happen.
I would think that. I think my opinion is that a collective. Oh, go ahead.
I said night, folks. I'm gonna head off. Good chatting.
All right. See you later.
Later.
I think that when you're talking about something that is so unknown as the far reaches of space, there's going to be a lot of different ideas that have to compete with each other, and the only way to really find out which one is better in the short or the long run is to try them. And having a group of people that agree with that same idea going and trying it in competition with other ones, I think that's going to it's going to eventually lead you to the right answer faster than a bunch of people sitting on Earth thinking about what's the best idea and then only trying one of them.
When you're dealing with
pragmatism, is that pragmatism?
When you're dealing with governments and diverse populations and interests, one of the major issues is that efficient systems cannot be a legitimate goal unless you start picking and choosing who to exclude and marginalize. So but when you're dealing with some of the space travel, you're looking at needing efficient systems because of limited resource capacity. As well as questions of what's worth doing at all or possible if you're talking about recovering resources that may be out there, but they're not cost effective to, even if you develop highly efficient systems, some things may be better left for fantasy novels and sci-fi. But
I think Elon Musk needs a nickel asteroid so that he can make enough batteries for his electric cars on Earth.
Lithium, nickel,
it might be worth $1 trillion to go get one of those.
It very well would be, actually, I think.
I don't have enough nickels, man.
Isn't there an asteroid out there that has enough gold on it? If it was ever to land on Earth, it would destroy the entire gold economy.
Probably.
What's so valuable about gold, really? Though, it's useful in certain plating.
It's a conductor. It's finite. There's a finite amount that it's a good semiconductor.
Yeah.
But it's been used as a currency token. But a lot of things that have been used as currencies don't really have that much value.
Like seashells.
Sure, it's just utility. I mean, you can see that in prison. Cigarettes are more valuable than gold in prison. Gold doesn't mean shit in prison. What are you gonna do with it? Nothing. You can't do anything with gold in prison.
How much is
Off
a
topic,
cigarette worth?
in prison they make like these fermented juices. So that's a currency.
Yeah.
They make like these alcoholic beverages.
Really?
And they talk through the toilets. Yeah, they get these.
Yep.
Yeah,
they do.
The only thing I could see gold being useful for.
They put a straw, like a straw type thing to like yell through the toilet. Like it's how you could talk across the pipes. It's not, and it's also not necessarily the resources themselves. It's the sum of their parts that are useful. Like he's saying with the what do they call that? The jailhouse brew. There's another term for it. The products by themselves aren't that useful or valuable. But once you put them together, now you've got some hooch.
Yeah, that's good.
So the gold itself is somewhat invaluable on its face, but somewhat valueless on its face as just a metal. But once you turn it into something, then it becomes valuable.
Right. I got a question. So you guys were what are your guys' thoughts on? I would say, I don't know if you guys were trying to progress globalization and that towards another planet, and
they
then
were.
Okay, so for example, globalization is fairly new, and we're seeing it unravel before us. And colonization is, I suppose, we can kind of stand here, analyze it in a past manner.
Hey,
However,
Padmar, if you could get closer, to your mic, that would be wicked. If not, it's okay.
Oh, for sure. How does it sound? How does it sound? Does it sound any better or
That's better. That's better.
Sweet. I suppose the question is it unavoidable, globalization, in regards to moving elsewhere? Because I don't see it as.
Well, it depends on what you mean by globalization. If you mean by contractual agreements that are mutually beneficial for all parties on the globe, then I would say that's already occurring.
That's right, and it's affecting us in a certain manner, and I suppose that's where I'm trying to take it.
The issue with globalization as a term is it typically means one large centralized control of currencies or economics or whatever the resource is, and that's
it can mean different things to different people, though, potentially.
Well, okay,
sure. But it's important for discourse to settle
term,
on one.
Yeah, I'd say colloquially we know what it means. I would say. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think most people understand what globalization means when they say it.
Great.
I'm just saying people might have ulterior motives for globalization.
I would say this is that until you start seeing companies or countries join with other countries for benefit in game, I wouldn't even worry about it, because there's just no indication that you see large countries or even some of the smaller regions basically joining into unification and changing the whole government and the flags and all that. So really, I think we're quite a ways off. Yeah, there might be unions and things like that, but when it comes to actually stepping forward and creating new countries and things like that, until we see that, we won't see globalization probably in our
like
lifetime.
The United States of America, like that.
Yeah, the states weren't unified under a somewhat mutual benefit or goal, but a lot of people were dragged into it. I think you read some of the stuff from the early colonialists, even people like Jefferson and Washington, that the initial goal wasn't necessarily to remove the state's place at all, or the colony's place. It was a political move, but I don't think most people understood what they were getting into when they decided to unify. And actually, we didn't really unify as a nation in the way that we know it today until the Civil War. Before that, we were largely identified with our state.
Yeah, that's right. And the states even have their own standing armies, right?
That's right. I mean, the Articles of Confederation were probably, I don't know. I kind of lean towards that being a better solution than what we currently have.
People were unified in the Revolutionary War?
Not most individuals. No, and actually, there were a lot of people that were pro Britain too.
I get
A
that,
lot more
but
than
I'm just saying, you always have people that are like that.
There were also a lot of people that just didn't want to deal with the war.
They didn't want to deal with it at all. I mean, you're talking about largely, you know, poor
I know
or
technically it wasn't America, but in a way it kind of was because they united against Britain, right?
they united for some common good in taxation, but there was also a religious piece to that for some people, and there were a lot of people that were not interested in war, and they just didn't want to see that happen.
Religion's
And I
always
think
used in ulterior motives when it comes to everything. It's not the real reason.
Well, it was also a mutual benefit with other countries to
They didn't
not
want
have
Britain
Britain,
the
telling
French,
them what
not
to
have
do.
Britain consume America.
That's right. The French were
No
pretty well
taxation
involved
without
in that.
representation. They didn't want Britain, not having they don't have anything in their interest, and their tax and they're paying taxes, heavy taxes on Britain. Is kind of like you're over there and you're not over here, and you don't we're just giving you money, so like to hell with you, they don't want nothing to do with them anymore.
Yeah, but if you look at how fast the United States expanded, how much prosperity we've achieved in a short period of time, that goes to Doolittle's
America
point.
was separate, but they ended up just united under the commonality of Americans.
What I was saying is it goes to Doolittle's point in that the competition that we experienced in the early stages of westward expansion were probably one of the biggest reasons for it happening so quickly. And so the same thing might occur in the future of space, where you would rather have differing interests across the board with competitive natures to try and achieve something for themselves that would benefit the whole when it comes to space exploration.
The idea of global government's a major mess. If you look at the international crime of genocide, there are so many obstacles to prosecution, that's very dysfunctional. If you look at the letter of the law and what the limited enforcement actions have been accomplished under it, most of it's unenforceable. If you look at the UN Human Rights Charter, the first paragraph is all idealistic sounding. The second paragraph is a load of Swiss cheese. You look at Paraguay Accords for the bastardization of intellectual property law beyond what already existed, and you've got small countries being used as pawns by corporate interests in bigger countries. Look at the formation of Israel, where Zionism is genocide, driven by war in the first year after that was defined as an international crime. The UK and its allies, in the guise of ending colonialism.
Large countries were imposed on small countries in the past with less globalization.
Look at the Paris Climate Accords. In 1 year, it's all of the developed nations are getting rid of their coal plants, and in 1 year, China built more coal plants than all of the coal plants that exist in all of Europe.
Mm-hmm. But going back, how about the United Nations? How did Palestine get excluded? In order to remove standing, for prosecution of UK, its allies, and what became Israel for their genocide and war crimes. Or if you look at Somali pirates, Somalia was turned into a hazmat dump with no effective redress, because its civil war kept it from having a government that could play the games that were defined in UN, international legal process. So, pirates.
Speaking of pirates, Loki, how would you avoid the problem, or how would you deal with the problem of space pirates when we become a spacefaring civilization?
Oh, really? Space pirates?
You would probably have space pirates at some point, depending how much we expand.
Probably.
Call the Space Force.
I don't know. Global thermonuclear war. Destroy humans before it can happen. Have a Planet of the Apes scenario. And, if people don't play nice with each other, that's a difficult thing to enforce against. The only practical enforcement might be economic sanctions. If they try to come back to Earth, you can't land back on Earth if you've played dirty, or you're zeroed out in financial value, just like we've done to Facebook and Amazon for their crimes. Oh, wait, we haven't done that yet, but they deserve it.
We just got to make sure a black market doesn't form in space. And we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Think about what happens when you go 100 miles offshore. You're in international waters.
What about it?
Oh. Nobody's got your back out there. They're not going to have your back. You get a certain amount of space away from the planet.
That's why you hire black ops and people in different security detail to give you an escort.
Dog.
Yeah, the U.S. Navy actually does quite a bit of patrolling operations in international waters.
Imagine Blackwater having
trying to counter piracy ops and things like that.
I'm sure Space Force will do a lot of patrolling / testing in international space too.
Yeah.
I want to fuck with the Navy on international waters. They might just say fuck it.
Well, maybe having an international space force is just, what do you do when a country, let's just say Elon Musk sends his satellites up into whatever near Earth orbit for his internet, and China decides that they want to just take that over, and so they send up a bunch of robotically controlled USB keys to reprogram the satellites and
oh Jesus!
take over.
From what I understand, this has actually already kind of happened. So basically, if I remember right, China was refusing to crash one of their satellites, and it ended up causing an issue because there was other satellites needing the trajectory, and China just refused to move it, and it caused a lot of issues, and it did stir this crisis of like, listen, who owns orbit, right? How do we enforce its orbit? Right.
Is it just an extension of airspace?
It's kind of, but it's almost like I think it's just more of trying to get, like, there's these like butter zones when it comes to the trajectory. It's not like there's plenty of room. There's like these certain butter zones, and so they want to fight for these butter zones where satellite can be always falling, but it's always going over your main areas that it needs to transmit to.
Wow.
So low Earth orbit really isn't touched yet, so that's why.
I also keep hearing these other countries try to hack each other in space, try to hack their satellites and stuff, and disrupt them.
I've heard some crazy shit too, but a lot of stuff is just top secret. I just know it's being talked about right now, and they don't know what they're going to do. But that's why do we have a military in space already? I mean, come on, man.
Space warfare has been a doctrine since the 60s. It hasn't turned into its own branch until just now.
It's control. The military, when you have things like shipping lanes and things like that between Mars and Earth and the Moon, whoever puts their force up there that really has the true control. They'll decide who goes and who doesn't go, passes clearance and who doesn't.
Right. I don't think the Space Force has weapons at this point. Oh, go ahead.
All right, so within the gap that you see within, you see it evidently in our modern day economics and government per se. There's like this gap of inclusiveness and exclusiveness of information, knowledge, data, if you will, because of the separate groups that need to be formed in order to make that group function. So I guess my question is, how do you kind of have a healthy balance of this exclusive inclusion? And I suppose in many different areas too, how do you have a balance of these countries not fucking each other over, and then also within the civilization, how is that even possible, or is this something you can't really, I guess I don't know. That's the question.
Well, that's what we have things like the UN for, but they have their limits.
Right. Okay.
The UN's a joke. The UN's putting the freaking people from the Saudi Arabia on the Human Rights Tribunal.
I know.
Or the Human Rights Commission.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying.
please help me, Rhonda. It's absolutely insane.
Why did they do it though? Why did they do it?
Because they wanted to give them something, and of all the things to give them the Human Rights Council.
they got. It's because it's a because once you involve politics, you get this. Like, this is
Yeah.
politics in a nutshell.
It really is.
Posturing,
really
saving face, virtue signaling,
trying to make them look good.
You know,
But
spending the money that they have,
you gotta acknowledge Saudi Arabia.
Well,
Yeah,
we don't have to acknowledge
we don't
them.
have to give them the Human Rights.
I don't want to. Trust me.
We don't have to give them the Human Rights Council. We could have given them something else.
It might be the most meaningless council.
They're wealthy.
Well, yeah, that's also true. It's kind of like giving them a booby prize. It's like, here, give them that one.
What are you guys talking about?
What do you mean? What we're talking about?
Human rights trial. The UN appointed an Israel.
The United Nations gave
the Council for Human Rights in the United. Yeah. Well, there's one of the people on the Council of Human Rights is from Saudi Arabia, where they have some of the most egregious violations of human rights in their country.
Yeah.
They're doing Yemen and all that right now. Like, I totally get that, but
it might be a
there's just one person. Maybe that'll teach them. It's
That's
important
what
to
they're
have them on the
saying. It's
council.
like, this is a teachable moment. This is teachable.
Yeah.
Listen to me,
Hey,
folks.
your punishment.
They've had a long
for
time
Jamal
to be taught.
Khashoggi. Your punishment for Jamal Khashoggi is you have to sit on the UN Human Rights Council.
Yeah.
Now they got a channel to talk to him about this
because
it's obviously
tell me what you did wrong.
Speaking of the Middle East, just to like break in, it seems to me like today and yesterday, I think that Syria has launched retaliation against Israel. Have you guys heard that?
I didn't hear that. What did they do?
Syria up to your Syria shit again.
Iranian missiles.
Syria shot Iranian
wait,
missiles.
Hold on. I got a question in this relationship between the Middle East and themselves. Like are they just naturally like that, or is someone stirring it up?
Is who naturally like what?
Those two countries, like in their relationship,
Syria and Israel. No, Syria and Israel have been fighting since Israel was created.
Yeah.
Oh no. Let me say. Let's go back to David.
So yeah, we could go back to before that. I mean,
go back to
sure,
Israel.
But like, are we?
So Israel fired.
At this point, are we doing anything at this point?
Yeah, I mean, the United States is restraining Israel because if they don't, Syria would be a wasteland and Iran would be next. So Syria attacked Damascus, and now Israel attacked Damascus, and now Syria is responding.
How are we in with our military right now? Is that like how? But how?
How are we restraining Israel?
Yeah, are we because like they can roam about, but we can restrain them, kind of like is it like a modern?
They're not allowed to. We're not allowing them to. We're not typically allowing them to utilize the weaponry that they have because of the agreements they have with us. If they do that outside of our control, then they're no longer in favorable status with us or the rest of the West, and so it would become an economic nightmare, and that entire Middle East would be ablaze on fire like napalm.
They would lose our protection. They would lose our military protection. They'd lose our
economics.
Everything.
So that we'd sanction Israel. It would be bad.
And also understand Syria. Syria's like running around with its head cut off with a fucking AK-47. So they're basically imploding with the civil war for the better part of a decade. And so when you have people pop up to Israel, it's really not on behalf of the country. Yeah, the country hates them, but they don't want to be fighting. So you'll see areas of pure ceasefire just because places and areas won't want it. And you'll see small groups of people in Syria attacking Israel. You're like, oh, Syria's attacking Israel. It's like, yeah, they're also, like I said, completely revolutionizing and have it in a civil war right now.
Country's falling apart.
Fucking falling apart. So you're just seeing random groups just fucking bombing and crazy shit happen all the fucking time over there.
Well, and
Iran
Iran is basically like, if you don't stop us, we will lay waste to Israel. That's what's going on. So
Iran's a fucking force you gotta watch out.
So that whole situation. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail, but I was just trying to break in with a little like current events.
Breaking news. Yeah.
So how much is just basically like Biden's in
Doing that in
office
space
and
would
the Middle
kinda
East is on
ruin it.
fire again, so we're running
It's
the
like-
Obama playbook.
It's like we started talking about the future, and we just now started talking about like 1,000 years in the past.
Current events. Well, it's because we went to the
You know, Biden didn't even take a week to perpetrate war crimes. You know, the good,
Right,
peaceful
I know.
Democrat.
I know. It's the Obama playbook, man.
Yeah.
It's funny that Obama and Biden talk on the phone every day, and somehow Biden is running the Obama playbook.
Listen, the reality is, if you are brown and live in the sand, you should be scared right now.
Hey, that's me.
Unless you're on vacation.
Live in the sand?
It's just a terrible joke about us bombing the Middle East, or not us, but us dealing with the Middle East, and then keeping it ablaze as if it were a bodily function. Our drone program is going to continue. Anyway,
Yeah,
before I get more on a tirade and depressed, I'm going to go to bed.
How much of Syria is part of the tribal feuding? The whole post-Ottoman Empire deal has always been a mess, and how much of it you think is driven by the disruption of farming from water shortages and trying to drive people who are supplying food into the cities where they don't really have a viable lifestyle?
It's
China
just bad
has
leadership.
water shortage, you said?
Bad leadership. That's all it is. Since
Mhm.
2011, it's been bad leadership.
No, definitely
2010,
the
2020.
exploiting of
It's not-
land is like, yeah.
Having major water problems from the environment shifting or seasonal variations and population stress isn't just a leadership issue, though.
Well, you've got growing pains as a nation. I mean, you're literally introducing first world nations in there in the past 40 years, and it's hard for them. They got to grow through this. You got to understand it's not just the mentality that needs to change, it's the complete understanding of having to shift your democracy, the way capitalism works, the way your religion works in a community where it's practically a theocratic state already. And then, by the way, here's a slew of fucking technology which completely adapts your social and your economical and your physical capabilities. It's a lot to transition to. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of distress in the Middle East for quite some time. They know they're not on a good path unless they start making some changes.
And I also kind of wondering, going back to the talking futurism, how do we deal with
Wait.
planet going rogue, going full Gundam wing, and Mars is now seceding from Earth.
That's going to be a crazy time for sure. Or when you see Mars people evolving differently than humans on the planet.
Oh my god.
They're living in caves and shit over there underneath different gravities, and it's going to change our offspring, our offspring's offspring if you just keep continuing civilization.
Martians are going to be very different from Earthlings.
How does time affect all of that? Because we've been watching a transition since the Earth became connected with old-fashioned navies to fractional second monetary and communications. But if we start having beyond generation travel times, for a connected universe, that's going to go the opposite way a lot, big time.
Well, there's also the big problem with communicating in space because the messages we send out there are only going to go so fast. There's a possibility that if we do ever become spacefaring, planetary spacefaring, communicating with each other is going to take for days. Sending an email to a person is not going to be instant like you're on Earth. It's going to be like
there might be a certain change in genetic structures within our species too, like depending on how far.
Like I said, the Martians will be different from Earthlings. And how we communicate with each other is going to be like the new snail mail.
Well, if you go back, a little further, just in the last few centuries, an international letter was, relative more than some people earned in a week, and you'd have it go on a ship, and having 2 back and forths in a year would be rapid communication.
Yeah, that's another thing. Would it be faster to send a message through space or send it through a ship? Like, holy shit. We're gonna go back to that's a very big question there because we're gonna have we're gonna have to deal with those possibilities.
you essentially could have a focused laser that could deliver messages rather quickly, as long as you have a receiver to catch it. So you could actually project.
But why don't
Laser or microwave radio, no significant difference though. So,
yeah, but I mean, you could probably use some pretty powerful radio or light signals to get there rather quickly. Probably not within minutes, but a couple hours.
Yeah, but it'll speed it up quite a bit, and
it's gotta have the catcher.
And it could be huge.
You could put put a satellite up there and just have it beam, man. Like what needs to be on Earth and shoot up.
Yeah.
Infrastructure that
the
can
energy
that might be good, but
would it make it faster?
If you solar panels on a motherfucker, you pay for it. It's not a problem. Like quite a bit of energy out in space, believe it or not.
Would it accelerate it significantly? Like to what pace? You would think?
Huh?
Like to what pace would it accelerate? Like
the whole concept of acceleration is irrelevant when you're talking about light or RF communication.
Yeah,
you're dealing with energy and speed of light in a vacuum. You're not dealing with massive objects. Massive objects accelerate. Energy waves don't.
You took a high-powered laser that shot light, and it shot it in just a very Morse code or whatever specific algorithm you give it, and then it can deliver the message. You can deliver pictures, you can deliver whatever. It's just
yeah.
Well, I suppose a proper, like a much better word would be like speed it up, like how make it more quicker.
But that sounds like archaic CW, shortwave. Whereas most data communications now are some kind of, phase angle and amplitude bracketed, pseudo parallel signals where you're packing in higher data density. But that breaks down or has to run slower if you're dealing with a lower grade signal.
Those methods will probably be faster than probably sending it physically then. So, and they'll probably hit a hard limit though, how fast they can go. But it'd be better than nothing. Another issue that we're also going to have.
We can't be absolute in how we think about saying if something can't go faster or can go faster.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about it, because a lot of times, sometimes when people say things in science that they think is a definite, it ends up, you could potentially have a contradiction.
Travis said that earlier. Scientists talk about what's probable. We might be able to figure out a way to send communication faster.
People say that there's no such thing. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. Now they're saying that the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, so there probably will be a way to move in space faster than the speed of light. It might take time to discover it.
We're probably not there yet as an advanced species to know all that. We could
probably get there someday.
That's an incribly inarticulate.
You never know, man. It might be like warp factor 5 and some shit like that. Who knows?
The universe expanding faster than the speed of light is a relativistic motion statement. It doesn't.
Bingo. That's how I feel. I don't feel there's no such thing as
faster than the speed of light.
I don't think speed exists. I think it's relative. So when somebody says it can't go this or can't go that, space is endless. How do you know what it is? And
there's also a relationship between the two. According,
there's no such thing as it.
Like you can kind of supposedly you can travel through time if you go fast
enough. That is, time might be the fourth dimension. That's possible. They were talking about stuff like that earlier.
But does it affect the object itself? Does it not age significantly? Would it arrive? I don't know. Would it age?
I think one of them, if I try to remember, something might happen if we could figure out how to dig a hole through space, and as soon as it would pop out, it would start to create a bubble of state of decay.
What are you talking about? Traveling speed?
I could be butchering this, but they talked about as soon as that object comes out of that slip through the fourth dimension, it might create a bubble of state of decay where everything starts like a new miniature universe might get created.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, something crazy like that. I could
What are
be
you talking
butchering
about?
it. You might have to ask Travis that.
Huh.
They talked about that earlier.
What do you guys
Yeah,
talking
like
about?
if you're
Traveling?
There
traveling
one
through
mentioned a
the
form of travel where they somehow mess with time and the speed of, and go faster than the speed of light, and then if you come out of it, it might end up fucking up that space for a little bit by making it
basically
small.
like making a little portal, I suppose. Like
Yeah, but the
maybe.
coming out of it might be a little destructive. I think what they said that you get as much energy as you can, and you just tear past the speed of light. I don't know. Like I said, I could be butchering it. You can watch it earlier in the stream. I just don't know what part.
For sure. He's all
But,
like 34.91.
So okay, let's say you're going 50 miles an hour, and you throw a ball, 20 miles an hour. Isn't that ball traveling 70?
I guess so. Yeah.
So wouldn't the
well,
speed of I'm talking about? Wouldn't the speed of light be the same?
one of the issues, of space that we don't really understand well is that when you're dealing with near speed of light, it appears that we may not be working in Cartesian space anymore. And you're talking about Newtonian mechanics, where you can deal with the linear vector sums and assumptions of Cartesian space. If that doesn't apply, and we don't really know what does, other than seeing some issues that we don't understand yet that suggest that there might be, other frames of reference at play. It's hard to come up with valid extrapolations, because part of the data you're extrapolating from is, unknown or garbage.
And the thing the point I was making earlier, as I keep saying, like if we can't solve. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was gonna say I'm not sure if it's a worthwhile endeavor to like note that. I suppose it doesn't. Does it have much? It doesn't have much evidence that speed and that those two things at play. I'm trying to remember those two physics subjects that we were talking about.
Oh.
Well, when you're dealing with some of the complex math and physics observations to suggest that we probably, need to be considering non-Cartesian models of time smear and space. They don't translate well to a casual conversation without a whiteboard with 2 years to analyze what you're looking at between rounds of discussion.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It's very complicated. Now,
You lost me with the Cartesian, man.
Problem.
No, I think
what's
Cartesian?
Cartesian?
He makes a solid point.
Okay, if that doesn't mean anything to you, take some math courses. Come back in a few years.
No, the thing I
couldn't give me a definition.
Study the math with the pictures and arrows for a few years.
I need a degree to get to know that. Okay.
So what I was trying to say earlier was my answer to is if we can't find an alternative fuel source, we can always just extend our longevity. But then again, that might have problems. We had to deal with that because, like, what kind of brain disorders could we end up developing by living too long? What happens when you run out of space on your brain? What is there? Would there be disorders arriving from people having to live for too long? Would eventually kill themselves or something?
There is some serious research going on, in a couple of major universities about the, methods that might cause cells to rejuvenate. But we've had a cultural shift over less than my lifetime. It used to be that people considered that kind of thing, public good of shared knowledge. Nowadays, it seems like there's a competition for researchers to affiliate with institutional systems that can patent and monetize research before they'll even publish. And that really screws up the whole idea of intellectual sharing and public good.
One of the things I heard, the reason why some companies might abandon